amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
So you see, son, good manners are very, very important. Someday, many years from now, when you're a grown-up, you'll be a man. And when you are, you should be a gentleman. Do you want me to go through it one more time?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and excuse me. Sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If a door's shut, then knock first. Don't burp, don't swear, don't speak with your mouth full, don't reach across people's plates, keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. While we're at it, don't stare, don't use foul language, don't call people names, but do remember people's names. Always share your toys, play nice, and cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give up your seat to anyone who has trouble standing. Bottom line, treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Hey, there he is. How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand or what?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you okay?
I'm having a stroke.
Your face looks weird too.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you having a seizure or something?
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
Or if that resume was from someone who
worked 12-hour shifts at the recycling company with my dad, who's 72. That taught me a work ethic that I carry with me every day.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have gotten in the way of my goals, but I learned to push through, and that's what I bring to work every day.
So maybe it's time we look beyond the resume and look to Grads of Life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well,
We were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Hey, guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What are you talking about?
No, it's not him. There is only one more. There is only one more. Does not say one more.
Get arrested!
No!
They saw your team put up zero effort.
Wake up!
Remember in the old days, they used to have oxygen for them. Where's the oxygen? They play like absolute just garbage.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Yay!
Man, can you keep it down? I'm trying to introduce here. With Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
You're not even a has-been. You're a never was. You're a never was. You're a never was. Thanksgiving is now over. Christmas is around the corner, and then New Year's, November 29th. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks. My co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can call us at 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouths with me and Speedy Petey every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to check out our local listings is go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Speedy, how was your Thanksgiving, my friend?
A lot of fun. I stuffed myself with a little too much meat that I couldn't finish all the side dishes, unfortunately, but had an enjoyable time. I was mostly my immediate family. My grandmother could not come up. She's unfortunately not feeling great, but my immediate family, we enjoyed it. A lot of decorations we put up, and then we switched right back to Christmas the very next day. Got our tree. Actually, probably our shortest tree in our house, a very tall house that our shortest tree we've had in the last 10 years or so, but enjoyable time, and looking forward to this Christmas season, and hope all the fans out there had a great Thanksgiving as well.
I had the opportunity to hang out with my family here at my beautiful home over here. And
you're the host. Nice.
Yeah, I hosted, and there was a lot of good food. We had some stuffing, we had some candy yams, we had some turkey and ham, and you name it, we had it, and great desserts, by the way. And it was my nephew's birthday, so we celebrated his birthday. We enjoyed it, and then I got a chance to see my 6-month-old niece yesterday. I went all the way out to Queens to check. I haven't seen her since she was born, so
wow.
It's been very, very busy for me, Speedy, as you all know, and anybody that listens to the show knows that I have sit back and relaxed and enjoyed the show for the whole season. And I mean by season, the whole season with all the sports around the country. So, and we have a lot to get into tonight. But before we do that, obviously, for all the fans out there that have tuned in to our show throughout the year, I want to thank everybody around the country, everybody from all the Podbeans and the Apple Podcasts and our Streamline, everybody, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everybody that's tuned in, TikTok, that has checked out our show throughout the country. I want to thank everybody throughout this season and throughout this year of sports listening to our show. We really do appreciate it, and we just want to give you guys a great show, and we have a great show lined up for you. A little bit later in the show at 8:30, we'll be talking to former 49ers, Bengals, Panthers, and Bears Titans tight end Kevin Green. He obviously, if you don't know who he is, he's not the ex-Hall of Famer. By the way, may he rest in peace, Kevin Green has passed away. But no, this is a player that actually played on a lot of practice teams over his career in the NFL with the Bengals, the Panthers, and the Bears, and the Titans. But we're happy to have him on. We're looking forward to have him on for the first time on our show. A little bit later after that, at 9 o'clock, we will be talking to Houston Gamblers, USFL wide receiver and tight end Brandon Barnes. He also played for the Lions, the Jets, and the Raiders in the NFL. So we've had him on the show. The guy is a tremendous interview, and he has
a great personality, and he gives you so many stories, and he has a ton of them. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, the Jets open the 21-day window for Aaron Rodgers and obviously him to practice. So we're definitely going to get into that. That's an interesting story. And he was on the Pat McAfee show. He said some very interesting things about quarterbacks over the last week. So we will get into that. Is Dak Prescott the NFL MVP? That is an interesting story. And if you look at, obviously, all the different things that people have brought to my attention over the last couple of weeks, especially statistics, you can absolutely put him in that vote as he could be a top 4 MVP candidate. Panthers fire Frank Wright after a 1-10 start of the season. I don't understand this. I really don't, because usually you have a rookie quarterback. I don't know why anybody thought that the Panthers were going to win more than 3 or 4 games. I know they only won 1 game, but we will get into that. I just don't understand the story. Reports say that John Gruden is a serious candidate to become the next Indiana head coach. Very interesting. And I'm a big John Gruden fan. I have obviously over the last year stuck up for him. I didn't like what the NFL did to him. I didn't like what Washington, the Commanders, and Schneider did to him and Roger Goodell. So I'm actually happy about this story. We'll see if it actually happens. Reports say that several NFL teams are interested in Deion Sanders as a head coach. I don't understand this, because Deion Sanders has come out and said not once, not twice, but 3 times over the last 6 to 7 months that he will never coach rich players. He will never coach NFL players because of the craziness off the field that he doesn't want to deal with. So we will get into that. Blackhawks waive Corey Perry following the inappropriate conduct with a team employer. I don't know the full story. I read some, TMZ actually reported something today. We will get into that a little bit later in the show. Mark Cuban sells his majority of his stake in the Mavericks for $3.5 billion. I never would have thought that Mark Cuban was going to sell it ever. I thought the Mavericks were his forever. And this story just surprised me. Came out of nowhere that Mark Cuban, and he's still running the team. He's still in charge of basketball operations. It's a very interesting story. I don't understand it, but obviously, as we move forward in the next year or so, I'm sure a lot of this story will come out in the open. I don't understand it, but we will get into that. So why don't we get into it? Aaron Rodgers comes out over the last couple of weeks on the Pat McAfee show and has said that he has obviously been getting healthy. His Achilles is starting to move. He's starting to run. He's starting to jog. He's starting to do all these different things. And the Jets announced that over the last couple of days that Aaron Rodgers now has reached the 21-day practice window and it's officially open. Robert Saleh said the window is open for functional activity, but Rodgers will not be participating in any contact practices. Aaron said on the Pat McAfee show yesterday that health comes first. Then the question becomes if the team's in it or can make a run for the postseason, then he would play. Rodgers said last week on the Pat McAfee show that he wants to return to practice fully in 2 weeks and wants to take flight sooner rather than later. Rodgers said the injury has felt like retirement, and he doesn't like that. Rodgers also defended Coach Robert Saleh last week, saying that when he thinks about all the best coaches of all time, they all had awesome quarterbacks. The Jets have lost 4 straight games and are now 4-7, tied for the second worst record in the AFC. We're going to get into what he said on the Pat McAfee show because it's so very interesting about what he said about Dak Prescott, what he said about Jordan Love. And I love that Aaron really came out and stuck up for the quarterbacks that everybody keeps throwing under the bus over the last couple of weeks. And it's so interesting about how he compared Bryce Young to CJ Stroud. even though it's only been 1 year in, and even though C.J. Stroud's having a sensational year, everybody's throwing Bryce Young that he's a bust. Throw him on, you might as well get rid of him. And as you see Carolina firing Frank Wright, which absolutely makes no sense, but that has a lot to do with the Carolina Panthers organization and how inept they've been over the last couple of years finding a coach. But when you sit here and you think about the New York Jets right now and the position that they're in, and it's not a good position. Anybody that sits here today and thinks that the New York Jets are in a great position and they could still make the playoffs, numbers would tell you they're still in it, but your brain should tell you it's over. What we saw on Friday, on the first Black Friday game, is one thing. We didn't have to see Zach Wilson. Thank God we didn't have to see Zach Wilson. But Boyle isn't any better. Let's be honest here. They don't have a real backup quarterback. We have gone into this over the last couple of weeks. Why didn't they take on Carson Wentz? Why didn't Matt Ryan come out of retirement and obviously taking over the starting quarterback position when Aaron Rodgers got hurt week 1? I don't understand it. And I think Joe Douglas has been hiding. Yes, you've heard it. I think he's been hiding because he's not answering questions on why he had not bring in a competent quarterback over the last couple of weeks. You sit here and you look at the New York Jets. This defense is, to me, one of the top 5 defenses in all of football. You wonder, over the last great years for New York Jet teams, and remember Rex Ryan's teams, they had great defenses, but they had nothing on the offensive side of the ball, except 1 year with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yep.
Okay. With Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. They had sensational years. Great. Did they make the playoffs that year?
No.
No. Okay. And that, by the way, was not with Rex Ryan. That was with Todd Bowles.
That was with Rex Ryan sweeping the Jets with the Bills.
That's right. And Rex Ryan's the one that kept the Jets out of the playoffs that year. When Rex Ryan took the Jets to back-to-back AFC title games, they had a top 5 defense. But they had a competent quarterback. Yes, it's crazy to say that, but they did have a competent quarterback. He's known for his butt fumbles, but instead, he actually has won 4 games on the road, which how many quarterbacks that you know over the last couple of years really, in the last 30 years, have won 4 road games in the playoffs.
I think it's only Joe Flacco and Joe Burrow, I think.
So, I mean, when you think about that, Rex Ryan was a part of a team and coached a quarterback who, by the way, is no longer in the NFL. He retired out of the NFL at the age of 31. So he was only in the NFL for what, 9 years? And I think 5 years he was with the Jets. And then he jumped to 2 different teams. I think the Eagles, and I don't know the other team, but he was on another team. You think about where the Jets have been at the quarterback position. Look at Geno Smith. Look what Geno Smith has turned into, backing up Russell Wilson all those years. Then he takes over the starting quarterback job, and look, he's flourishing. The New York Jets have had problems developing quarterbacks. Zach Wilson obviously is done. He's no longer going to be a Jet. If the Jets decide to bring him back, shame on the Jets. And then they bring in Tim Boyle, okay? And let's be honest. I understand he knows the offense. I understand he knows Nathaniel Hackett. I understand he was the 3rd-string quarterback with Green Bay with Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. That doesn't sell to the Jet fans because Aaron Rodgers, after 4 plays, was out for the season. Now he wants to come back, and we will get into that in just 1 second, which I don't understand either. The Jets have lost 4 games in a row. 4. And embarrassed themselves in embarrassing fashion, by the way. Their defense has kept them in every single game. And by the way, where is Breece Hall? Breece Hall is one of the more dominant running backs in the league. Why isn't he touching the ball more than 12 times? Garrett Wilson, and I understand he's confused. He doesn't understand how and why this offense is so inept. But let's be honest, he's one of the reasons why it's inept. And they don't have a wide receiver. I know everybody loved Alan Lazard. I was one of them that thought that he was going to be competent as a wide receiver if Aaron Rodgers was on the field. They don't have any competent wide receivers. There is none. And Gibson has shown flashes of that in the slot. But is he going to be your second guy? Now, going into this 21-day practice window, the Jets are not winning this week against Atlanta. You can sell it, book it, whatever you want to do with it. They're not winning this weekend against Atlanta. And then they have the Houston, I'm not even going to say the Houston Texans, where C.J. Stroud is an MVP candidate. He's been dominant. And if Aaron Rodgers appears to come back in that game, which he's not, by the way, if he comes back, maybe they have a chance. Maybe. But there's no offensive line, guys. None. Absolutely zilch. So why would Aaron Rodgers come back and risk himself hurting himself and maybe career ending for his Achilles? It doesn't make sense. So why would the Jets give him this window? I understand they want to make the playoffs. I understand the fans want to see Aaron Rodgers on the field. Why? Why would you risk this? You have another season, actually another 2 seasons with possibly Aaron Rodgers. Why would you risk a career-ending injury where you can obviously get a top 10 pick? Now, you don't want to lose. You don't want to see a team actually throw games away. You don't want to see the Jets do that. You don't. But again, where you see the Jets right now, are they going to win another game? If you look at their schedule right now, you have Atlanta, you have Houston, you have Miami, you have Washington. The best chance they have to win is against Washington. And Sam Howell, he is going to put up at least 17 points in that game. At least 17 points. The Jets haven't scored more than 10 points in the last 6 weeks. How are they winning that game? What are they going to do that's going to change their fortunes? It doesn't make sense. So why does anybody believe the Jets are going to win another game this year? Answer that question. And you sit here and you make excuse after excuse. And why? I understand Aaron Rodgers going on the Pat McAfee show. And I love Aaron Rodgers. I really do. I love his personality. I like how he speaks about the league and the growth of certain quarterbacks, and that you have to give quarterbacks a little bit more credit than a lot of people do. And he speaks about C.J. Stroud and even Bryce Young, how everybody's just thrown Bryce Young to the wolves. After 1 season, how could you believe that Bryce Young's career as an NFL quarterback is over? He said it. Zach Wilson had enough, okay? We've seen enough of Zach. And there's no excuses for Zach, and Aaron cannot make any excuses for Zach Wilson. He didn't. But Bryce Young, he said it, and he even said C.J. Stroud's going to going up and down as a young quarterback. He's going to make mistakes.
And he's done that in the last 2 weeks. Like, he's had 3 turnovers in multiple turnovers in the last couple of weeks. But that's really been it. Like, finally, he had a rough patch, a little bit of a rookie wall from the stretch, the October he was having, that stretch he was having. He was like bad the first week of the season. Then he was great for 7 weeks, 8 weeks in a row. And then we just had a bit of a rough stretch. And Jacksonville's a good defense, so let's not take that away. The Ravens are a good defense. But going back to the Jets, Aaron Rodgers can come back and practice all he wants, and you have to give him credit for dedicating the work ethic that he's had.
He wants to do the impossible.
Yeah.
We all know
there's zero reason the Jets are going to bring it back. The Jets are not 7-4. The Jets are not in a wild card spot. They are 4-7 with still contending teams. The teams are going to play outside of Washington and the Patriots. Teams are going to be playing with some urgency to get in the playoffs. The Falcons are trying to win their division. The Texans are trying to get in a wild card spot. So, they're going to be fighting hard as it is. I mentioned when we were doing the schedule breakdown at the start of the year, I thought Atlanta was hard for the Jets anyway, regardless of if Aaron Rodgers was healthy, because of their creative running game, their tight end usage, and all that stuff. And now they have actually, they've struggled in the last couple of weeks, but they've had a good defense this year. The Texans have an okay defense and improved from where they are. And like you said, C.J. Stroud's going to win Rookie of the Year. They're not going to win those games anyway. So what happens if Aaron Rodgers comes back and let's say they beat Washington in the Patriots? That's 6 wins. What's the point in doing that? There's really none.
And I don't understand why he's defending Robert Saleh, because Robert Saleh has been one of the worst second half coaches in NFL history. I mean, the Jets were 7-4 at one point last year, and they didn't win one game after that. This year, they were at one point 4-3. Well, now they're 4-7. They've lost 4 games in a row, and they probably aren't going to win another game this year. Maybe against the Patriots in the final game of the season, if the Patriots just say, here's a give me, because we want Drake May.
Nah, Bill Belichick would never do that. Bill Belichick would still want to destroy the Jets 42-0.
Who knows? I mean, obviously the Patriots want a quarterback, and they're eyeing on a quarterback. So why would they actually win that game against the Jets where it could screw them out of getting the quarterback that they want?
Well, if Bill Belichick knows he's leaving or is going to be forced out, maybe he does want to screw the Patriots. Who knows?
Who knows? But obviously, and by the way, he was on the Pat McAfee show, and we have a couple of clips that we want to play on interesting quarterbacks that he has spoke highly of over the last couple of days. Speedy, hit it. Let me give you my opinion on what he is saying. For all the people out there for the last couple of years throwing Dak Prescott under the bus, that he's not a winning quarterback, that he beats all the bad teams and never wins against the good teams. You play to win the game. You play whoever's on your schedule. Now, obviously, he's had problems with San Francisco and the Eagles over the last couple of years. And we all know that. That's because these two teams, and actually some of the dominant teams, he's had problems against one-on-one, obviously, and people are comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. Nobody's going to compare him to the elite quarterbacks in the league, even though he's been elite. He really has. Listen to these numbers. Dak Prescott has risen into the 4th highest in the betting odds for the MVP conversation, only behind Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. Dak has been the best quarterback in the NFL the last 6 games, throwing 18 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions, a 70.4% completion percentage, a 122.6 passer rating, and a 1,874 passing yards. For the season, Dak has 2,935 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a 70% completion percentage, and a 107.4 passer rating. The Cowboys offense is number 1 in this season with 31.5 points per game, and number 5 in total yards with 377.6 yards per game. Lamar Jackson has 2,618 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a 98.4 passing rating, and also has 574 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts has 2,697 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a 94.9 passer rating, and also has 410 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes has 2,917 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a 68.1% completion percentage, and a 96.3 passer rating. When you look at those numbers and you compare them to Dak Prescott, who has 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he has 70% completion percentage, which, by the way, is better than Patrick Mahomes. Okay? Better than Patrick Mahomes. Better than, I'm looking at the numbers, better than Lamar Jackson, and better than Jalen Hurts. His numbers are as good or even better than any of these quarterbacks that right now are on the list to win the MVP. What does that tell you about Dak Prescott? I don't want to hear from the Beef or anybody out there on if Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback. He is absolutely an elite quarterback right now. And when you have Aaron Rodgers sticking up for him, when you have had other quarterbacks coming out over the last 2 years saying that Dak is for real, Dak is a good quarterback, he's a legitimate quarterback in this league, and everybody has thrown him to the Wolves and thrown him to the Lions and said that this guy stinks, get rid of him, he's going to make $60 million next year of cap money, blah, 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 blah. Right now, Dak Prescott's the MVP of the league.
Yeah, and it's easy to do with like where we've been discussing with the Beef over the last throughout the season too. Oh, he can't win the game. Big game. One, it's a regular season award, and two, it's fine to be worried about that kind of thing with any quarterback that's had issues in the playoffs when he still has had that good of a regular season. Lamar Jackson's had issues in the playoffs. Everyone's going, are we going to downgrade Lamar Jackson?
Everybody does.
Yeah,
every single quarterback over the last couple of years have had problems. Peyton Manning's had problems, in the Super Bowl, in the regular, as far as the playoffs are concerned. In the regular season, he's a dominant quarterback.
Right. And again, we've seen plenty of MVPs throughout the years have games where they're going to stat pad. Games are going to be looking at big games against bad teams. That's the argument a lot of people are going to make too. Oh, Dak Prescott's doing it against the Giants and the Commanders and all that. Yeah, okay. Lamar Jackson's done that for years too against the Browns. Patrick Mahomes did it against the Raiders and the Chargers. I mean, everyone's going to have their great games against bad teams. It happens. Patrick Mahomes had his best game of the year against the Bears. Like, is anyone going to say, oh, it was the Bears? You have to have that same logic for Dak Prescott's kind of thing too. I think Jalen Hurts, when you read those numbers, I think he's the one that's probably the most out of it, because I think his 11 rushing touchdowns are more like, okay, you got a lot on the 1 yard line. Like, that's less on him than it is with the offensive line. I think it's a good race between the rest of those three of them, because Mahomes, no receivers, like we said all year. Lamar Jackson's doing with the rushing and still a lot of injuries on that offense. And Dak Prescott has done it at the best number rate in the season so far.
Who has Patrick Mahomes beaten this year? Who has he beaten? I mean, he played Philadelphia. He lost against Philly. Did he have such a great game? Yes. Obviously, they could have won the game, and they obviously dropped the wide receiver after he missed the catch at the end of the game. Scantling. Okay, we all know what happened and why they obviously dropped him, because he dropped the ball. We've seen this over and over again. We've seen great wide receivers drop the ball, but for Scantling, he drops the ball, he's done. They get rid of him. I think when you look at the big picture right now and you look at the position, the quarterback position, and you've heard Aaron Rodgers say it, it takes a lot to play the position. It takes a lot to call plays and look at the line of scrimmage and see what the linebackers are doing, seeing what the safeties are doing, how they're going to run a blitz through, how are they going to bring up the defensive linemen, or maybe, a blitz package of bringing up corners or something like that. All the different, styles of a way that you're going to call the plays at the line of scrimmage so your offensive line could read it and understand it. I mean, it's not an easy position. That's why the quarterbacks make the most money. You sit here and you look at Dak Prescott. I'm not saying Dak Prescott is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm not saying that he's better than Patrick Mahomes. But this year, he's been the best quarterback in the NFL. And for anybody to think that he's not, I love it when I talk to different Cowboy fans and how they throw this guy under the bus, that he's nothing. He stinks. Do you know, as a Jets fan, or whatever you want to call me now, because I try not to be, because everybody throws me on the bus when I try to be a Jet fan. So as a Jet fan, I would absolutely die if we had Dak Prescott as our starting quarterback. I would love it. I know Aaron Rodgers is our quarterback, and I'm happy that Aaron Rodgers, when he does play, is going to be the Jets quarterback. But right now, Dak Prescott would be phenomenal on the New York Jets. Do you know what Garrett Wilson's numbers would be right now? Look at CeeDee Lamb. Look what CeeDee Lamb has done in the last couple of years. You think it's just CeeDee Lamb making those plays? Dak has to put those balls in the position for him to grab. So I don't understand why everybody throws this guy to the wolves and thinks that, oh, you know what? It's Dak Prescott. He stinks. He was 4th-round draft pick. Oh, what? And Tony Romo's so beloved. What did Tony Romo do? What did he do besides have back injury after back injury? By the way, he's one of the best analysts right now in professional sports. I love him. I absolutely love him. But as a quarterback, he was a good quarterback. Honestly, if you look at Dak's numbers to Tony Romo's right now in their careers, Dak is a way better quarterback than Tony Romo.
Yeah, we talk about like second-tier quarterbacks, like they're trying to make that climb to have that kind of big year to get to that elite status, because there's always like the debate of like there are obvious elite quarterbacks and then there's guys that are right on the fringe that some people would take more than others. And there's an amount of number that could be that. But Dak Prescott was always thought of in that maybe 8 to 12 tier of quarterbacks. This kind of year, having the third, second, whatever you want to say, best quarterback year definitely has to elevate him to an overall quarterback 5 or 6. And he's doing it in circumstances that are still not like the easy. It's not like he has the Philly skill players around him or the Bengals skill players around him.
He's got one player.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb has had a phenomenal year.
I want to hear about Pollard because he stinks this year.
Yeah, Pollard's had an inconsistent year. And CeeDee Lamb has probably had the third or fourth best wide receiver year individually. But think about Brandon Cooks they brought in, did not do much until recently. Michael Gallup still trying to find his way back from the injury. Yep. Offensive line's been banged up. They have a nice rookie tight end or second-year tight end with Ferguson, who's played well. But like they have, these aren't the Eagles or the Bengals or any teams like that, skill players, Minnesota, anyone like that you have this great supporting cast around you. And Mike McCarthy is a decent coach. Are you going to call him like a genius? I don't think so. I don't think any Packers fans would call him a genius when Aaron Rodgers was there.
And Brett Favre.
Right. So you're not dealing with like the A-plus amazing circumstances to help him out either. So he definitely has a legitimate case. Now, I think he has more to work with than Lamar Jackson right now, but Lamar Jackson also had Mark Andrews, who just got hurt and still had a good offensive line. So like all the circumstances are not going to say, all right, Dak Prescott is that much better of circumstances than Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. And Jalen Hurts, who is also on that list and is leading for whatever reason, has the most to work with by far.
Way most to work with. I mean, A.J. Brown, Smith, I mean, the weapons that he has at running back, I mean, Swift has been fantastic this year. I mean, you look at and by the way, the best offensive line in football. Right. So you sit here, what does Dak have? Why does everybody hate this guy? And Aaron Rodgers said it best. How could you ever torch this guy the way you have this year? He has been as good as any quarterback in the NFL. Who do we have on the phone?
Jeff.
Jeff, what's up?
This is unreal. This is honestly unreal.
Let's go. Here we go.
All right. You can recite all of the numbers you want, and the numbers are pretty good. Okay? That's all well and good. But you're ignoring the other half of the whole thing. Whose fault was it that they ran out of time in the playoff game last year?
How does that correlate with the MVP
Actually,
year this
no, it's
year?
not. It's the coach's fault because he should be
It's
telling.
not the coach's fault.
Yes, it is.
Wait,
He's
wait, earlier,
Mike McCarthy. First of all, Mike McCarthy's calling the plays. Is he not? Is he there? Was he there? Was he? Is he the head coach? Why isn't he telling his quarterback? Why is he telling his quarterback?
Did he tell Dak to step out at the 2-yard line when he
No.
for a touchdown?
No.
So it's not McCarthy, it's Dak making these mistakes. Because Dak is the one that every time they play in a big game, Dak makes them, they're gonna go get the number 1 seed last year for the playoffs. What happens? Dak throws 30 interceptions in the Jaguars game, including the pick 6 for the to lead to the loss. He does some dumb stuff in the playoffs, slides down, they run out of time. Dak's an idiot. They play the Eagles this year. He runs out at the 2 like a moron. The numbers are good. There's no doubt. You can read the numbers all you want, but what you're ignoring is in the biggest moments of the biggest games, Dak does dumb shit.
That doesn't help you or change the way you play for an MVP season. Just because he's made mistakes in big games, his numbers would say that he's an MVP candidate.
Jeff, Lamar Jackson's made mistakes in big games. We're going to downplay him the way you're downplaying Dak.
What has Lamar done in the playoffs?
There's no doubt he puts up numbers, and there's no doubt he should be an MVP candidate. That's all well and good, but you're asking why people shit on him. They shit on him because in the biggest moments of the biggest games, he does the dumb things.
Again, he played against the Jaguars, which, by the way, was probably one of the hottest teams going into the playoffs last year. So, yes, he made some mistakes, and the defense played pretty well at the end of the season.
What, he throw 4 interceptions in that game?
Yeah, he made mistakes. That's what happens. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, over and over again.
Yeah.
In the biggest moments of the biggest games, he's the one making the mistake.
Okay, everyone's allowed to have a bad game. Patrick Mahomes had a bad game this year.
Every time
Everybody thought
you're the one that blows it up.
Okay.
time?
Okay. Everybody loved the Dobbs move, and everybody was throwing the Jets under the bus that they didn't add Dobbs to this quarterback. Even you thought that the Jets should have brought Dobbs in for a 6th or 7th round draft pick, but they didn't. Dobbs threw 4 interceptions in the game against the Bears? Against the Bears on Monday Night Football, embarrassing him. And now everybody who had him so high up, now they're saying that he might be benched. So that's what happens. It happens.
Dobbs wasn't in playoff games, and it hasn't been going on for years. Yes, people have bad games, but why is it in every big spot every year? He's the one that lays the egg. You can go year after year and do it,
but
and you want to ignore that.
But let's go through the quarterbacks that are right now up for MVP. Lamar Jackson, he has a pretty good team, one of the best defenses in the league. He has arguably the best kicker in the world.
Think you're missing the point.
No, I'm not missing the point. When you look at the talent around him, what does he have? Who does he have?
Dude,
he's got CeeDee Lamb. Who else does he have?
I'm in agreement with you. There's 2 different arguments. You're taking 2 different statements and making it one argument, and it's not, because I'm agreeing with you. He should be an MVP candidate. He's played well this year. I have no problem with that. But you also asked a separate question. Why do people hate him so much? Because in every big moment, he chokes like a dying dog.
And so does a lot of great quarterbacks. How many great quarterbacks have we seen over the years? Peyton Manning wasn't a great playoff quarterback.
Right, but there's also a difference, though.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
There's another difference. Name another decent quarterback that's played for the biggest group of pussies sports has ever seen in the Dallas Cowboy fans.
Well, we have no correlation with the MVP.
Has nothing to do with anything we're talking about.
Right, but that makes a difference, too, though, right? Because everything's going to be overblown with them, because their fans are the biggest whiny crybabies on the planet. They might be some of the most horrific people going.
And how does that help them get anyone for an MVP?
No, I understand what he's saying. I understand
what it does. That's why it gets blown out of proportion.
I understand what he's saying. And the Cowboy fans like to blow it out of proportion because it is the Cowboys.
Yes, that's what happens. Keep up, Speedy. I know you're dumb. Don't be this dumb.
Stop. He's not dumb. And honestly,
you're asking separate questions that I'm answering separately.
I understand what you're saying, but Jeff, you sit back and you go through some of the great quarterbacks of this era. Okay, Tom Brady, he was great in the playoffs, and we all know what we all know that. Steve Young was great in the playoffs.
Didn't play for the Cowboys.
Joe Montana, Troy Aikman did.
And he actually won.
Okay,
that's why every time
he played for the Cowboys.
Corpse out onto TV, they all hold him up like he's Simba over the cliff in The Lion King. Oh, all of this land you see is yours.
John Ferris says, I think they'll give CMC MVP. Probably not. Unfortunately, just the nature of the way they think of running backs now. Unfortunately, John, he's had a great year.
Maybe he has a magic carpet.
First of all, if they want a real MVP this year, like a real, and I realize what Errol's doing, because Errol is doing the smart thing here and just naming quarterbacks because it's become a quarterback award. But if you want a real MVP, the best player this season has been TJ Watt. That Steelers defense has been outstanding, while Kenny Pickett blows donkey dicks. You tell me how an offense that scored one first half touchdown all year has a 6-4 record or 7-4 record or whatever they are. Well, TJ Watt is the answer.
Myles Garrett's been pretty good. Crosby's been really good for Vegas. I mean,
also says Fred Warner.
There's been a lot of good defensive players. Look at the Jets.
They've been awesome, but that's the problem with the award, because they're not giving it to who has had the best season. We're all doing it. I'm not saying it's you. I'm not saying you're guilty of anything. So don't take it that way.
I'm not taking anything.
Right. Everyone just names quarterbacks. Quarterbacks stink this year. TJ Watt is the MVP.
I agree. I don't think any of the quarterbacks have been dominant all season long. I really don't. I mean, when you look at these numbers, especially Patrick Mahomes, and I said Patrick Mahomes was going to have an off year because they didn't really relinquish some of the wide receivers that they lost. And I know you're going to say, well, who did they lose? Juju obviously was a big factor. And then they brought Mecole Hardman in, and now they're not using him right. They're using him as a trick, wide receiver, a trick play wide receiver. I don't understand it. They don't have anything that really scares anybody but Travis Kelce. So, and if Travis Kelce, remember he got hurt?
Man,
I was going to get the Lions.
I think you're not paying attention to Rashee Rice. I think Rashee Rice is pretty good.
No, he's good, but he's not great. He's a new number 2 guy. They don't have.
But they already have a number 1 in Kelce, so that's all he needs to be.
Yeah, but here's the thing. What happens if you do what the Eagles did and just completely shut down Kelsey? What do you do then?
Yeah, I mean, they need to bring along some of the other guys, and Justin Watson and Valdez-Scantling needs to not suck. I mean, that stuff needs to happen. Pacheco has been a great weapon for them, right? He's been terrific.
He's on and off. I mean, he's been terrific in certain games and then disappear in other games. I mean, he's been good, and in the playoffs, he was fantastic.
He's been pretty damn good, dude. He's been a wrecking ball, dude.
But that still doesn't mean the Chiefs couldn't have traded a third-round pick for a veteran wide receiver at the trade deadline either.
They don't even need to do that. They could find someone off the scrap heap probably with Patrick Mahomes. He makes everyone pretty good.
So why not try to trade a third-round pick for a good wide receiver? And I'm not saying you have to trade for Devontae Adams, but you couldn't have traded for Adam Thielen at the deadline, something like that.
You know why but you know why they don't do that now? It's probably because they can't, because there's no trades now. It just is what it is now.
So why not try? We're talking about Carolina at the beginning of the show.
You can't make trades right now.
Not now. I'm saying at the trade deadline. The Carolina Panthers were 1-7. You don't think they could have said, all right, let's go get Adam Thielen, a good possession receiver, for a third or fourth round pick?
You're not giving up a third-round pick for a 35 or 36-year-old receiver.
31, 32, something like that. He's not still, all right, give him a fourth-round pick. Like, Carolina's in shambles. They might have said, all right, let's go try to get him something for nothing. And the Chiefs could use a guy that has good hands because everyone else.
Could you imagine Adam Thielen on that team?
Everyone else on that team, Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, they all have drop problems.
They've had problems all year dropping the ball. But that's a lot of players.
I know, but the Chiefs, they've had most of the games that they've played recently. Patrick Mahomes has a lot of good advanced metrics that are being stolen by the fact that these receivers have pot hands.
Well, the other problem with your theory, though, is you're trying to bring a receiver in. What did he sign for Carolina? $10 million a year or $12 million?
It's not much, yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah, not much, but it is a lot because they have Patrick Mahomes making $50 million, and you don't know if they have the cap room. Do they even have the cap room to make that move?
I would think that they do.
For a $10 million receiver,
I think they do.
They could definitely make that.
They
work.
brought Mecole Hardman in, and that's $7 million.
Yeah,
they absolutely could have.
No.
Instead of bringing in Hardman, you could.
I'm sorry.
You signed him for $7 million, and then you cut him, and he probably signed with them for $1 million.
I'll look that up.
The Jets traded him.
They traded him. They traded him.
So he's taking on that current contract. The Jets were not taking on any other
money. It was $7 million.
So if Mecole Hardman has $7 million, Adam Thielen for 10.
Look that up,
and they did make a trade for Mecole Hardman, who was there already and is familiar with the system and should have.
And he's just like every other receiver they have.
Dude, it's not his fault that he can't shake the stink of the Jets off him.
It has nothing to do with the Jets.
What does this have anything to do with the New York Jets?
Mecole Hardman, Kadarius Toney, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling are pretty much all the same skill sets.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but they have other guys, Rasheed Rice, Justin Watson.
I like Rice. Rice is fine.
That other tight end they can work in there.
Noah Gray,
okay. Noah Gray's really good.
Okay, but I'm just saying that doesn't mean they couldn't have traded for a veteran wide receiver for a fourth-round pick at the trade deadline. It solves the one issue they have on their team.
Is Mecole Hardman a veteran?
And he's the same type of player that they have already. He's basically another glorified Kadarius Toney.
Right, just because you don't approve of it doesn't mean they didn't have a plan.
We're trying to look up how much Kansas City has if they have spending money and they could actually bring in another wide receiver at the trade deadline. I have Tommy looking that up right now, but I do believe they made a trade for Mecole Hardman. That's $7 million. They could have actually brought Adam Thielen in. They could have made that trade.
But Thielen isn't even close to having the intangibles that Mecole Hardman has, because Mecole Hardman will run past Adam Thielen 10 times over.
I understand
don't need that, though.
But Adam Thielen's much better than Mecole Hardman. I mean, the guy can make catches. You could put him in so many different ways. You could put him in a slot. You could put him on the outside. You could do so many things with Adam Thielen.
Kadarius Toney has a lot of speed, too. He can't run a route beyond 7 yards.
Right, but they're trying to, what they're trying to do there with Thielen wouldn't fit for them. What they're trying to do is replicate another Tyreek Hill. They're trying to keep that thing
They're not
going.
going to get that.
I understand, but it's not going to keep them from trying.
Why would they try to do that, but they're not going to be able to do it anyway because these
dominant
receivers
when
all
they
have
had
drop
Tyreek.
problems?
Because they were dominant when they had Tyreek. Wow, why would you try to replicate something when you were dominant? Who wants to be dominant?
And where are you going to find that player from an older wide receiver or a gadget player?
You're not going to.
Right now, hold on. Kansas City right now would have $3,742,000. So that means they would have had 10 million, and they
Mm-hmm.
could have made that trade for Adam Thielen.
Right, and they would have also had no room to bring anyone else in if anyone.
So they
got
cut
out
one
with
player.
season-ending injury.
They could have
one
cut.
player.
They could have cut a player.
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't matter. Adam Thielen is, to me, a productive wide receiver. They don't have one really. Rice is good. I like what he's done, but he's not a number two. He's not a number one. He's a number two, like Speedy was saying. So you sit here, and I understand what you're saying, Jeff, and you have plenty of good arguments to this. But you have to look. You're a Super Bowl contender. You're expected to be a contender this year. You're going into the playoffs with who? Tony, Rice,
and Sky Moore,
and Sky Moore. Come on,
they'll make it work. They'll make it work. Dude.
Really?
Maybe, but it doesn't mean you should ditch the process of trying to make a trade.
Dude, look around the AFC as it currently is right now. Who's better than Kansas City? And I realize Baltimore has the number one seed. I think Kansas
Miami
City would just.
The Ravens are the most.
I think
team
Miami.
in
I
the
think.
AFC.
I think Miami could beat them. I do.
Maybe, no. They could beat them. That's fair. But you can't just say, oh, like that. Like there's one team. Like so they got to be. And Miami, by the way, is not looking good. They're not looking good lately.
Listen, their defense has been much better since Ramsey has come to the team, and obviously coming out of injury. And they have weapons. They can beat you with speed on the outside. By the way, and I'll give the Chiefs a lot of credit. They are more of a defensive team this year than they are an offensive team. Their offense is ranked 15th right now, or 14th in the league, or something like that. Yeah. Their defense is in the top 5 or top 6. So they have been absolutely. Spagnuolo is going to be up for a coaching job in the offseason. He might absolutely get a coaching position. But I go ahead.
I would say this about that matchup, right? Mm-hmm. Because I don't think as the playoff picture currently stands, Pittsburgh's not beating anybody.
No, I don't think so either, because they don't have a quarterback. Nope.
And I think Atlanta is in the playoffs. I think.
Well, that's the NFC. That's in the NFC.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I meant Jacksonville. I did. Yeah. I was like, oh, the South, who's in the South, and then I did.
I think Jacksonville. I do believe Jacksonville could beat them. I do.
Yeah,
Last year they almost did.
Right, Jacksonville could, but Jacksonville and Miami could. No one. I don't even think. I realize Baltimore's got the number one seed. They got nothing, especially now with Mark Andrews out. They're done.
What about the Broncos? Look how hot the Broncos.
Terrible.
Everybody says they're terrible. How many wins do they have in a row? They have 5 wins in a row. Their defense is playing well. They're starting to work on all cylinders. You have the wide receivers starting to catch the ball, the running back starting to run the ball, and Sean Payton looks like the king again. So I sit here and you say the Broncos.
I don't think they win a playoff game.
Really? I'm shocked that the Chargers are as bad as they are right now. I with Justin Herbert as good as he is, and now he signed the extension. If I was Justin Herbert, I would be pissed off right now where this team is.
Think about where it is right now. Denver's probably not overtaking Kansas City, right, to win the West.
No.
That means Denver's on the road throughout the playoffs. Are they going to go to Jacksonville and win?
I don't think that would be crazy if the Jaguars don't throw the ball. If they only start throwing the ball the way they have the last 2 weeks, but not the whole season.
Are they going to go to Kansas City and win?
I don't think so, but
but this is what I'm saying. I don't think they win a playoff game.
Are you talking about Jacksonville?
Okay.
No, Broncos.
Well, who knows? The way the Broncos have played, anything's possible. I don't know what to expect. Russell Wilson has been fantastic the last couple of weeks, and really throughout the season, as much as everybody was throwing the Broncos under the bus and what they were showing, Russell Wilson had good numbers. His numbers are so much better than they were last year.
The numbers thing again.
No, but he was.
Russell Wilson was not the problem.
He was definitely not the problem. The offensive line was not protecting him. They couldn't run the ball for crap. And then finally, I don't know what happened over the last 5 weeks. All of a sudden, the offense is starting to wake up. They knocked off Kansas City.
I'm a big believer in winning is learned kind of thing. We're like, oh, we're going to make the playoffs. We might lose the first year. The next year, we might win a game. Like, you learn how to win it. Dude, beyond Russell Wilson, I'm not even sure there's a player on that team that's won a playoff game. No, you're laughing, but it's true. Like, even the Jaguars, they were there last year. Kansas City's been in the playoffs for a while.
And Jacksonville was the same scenario we were describing. I don't think any of those guys, besides the free agents they got from the Rams, they wouldn't win a playoff game.
Right, but I'm just saying, I don't think that.
Look who they beat. Look who they
are going to step up.
Look who they beat in the last 5 weeks. Okay, let's just go through it, because they didn't just beat a bunch of crap teams. They beat pretty good teams. Let's take away the Packers. We'll go the Chiefs, the Bills, the Vikings, the Browns. Okay, all of these teams are playoff teams. Every single one of them. Every single one of them.
The Browns are a wreck.
But the Browns are one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Right, but they're never going to score a single touchdown for the rest of the year.
They scored 29 against that defense. 29. How many teams did that this year?
But you know how that works though, because you're a Jets fan, and this isn't a shot at the Jets. But you can just no. You're going to take it as a shot at the Jets. It's not. You look at what happens with the Jets. Because DTR or any other Cleveland quarterback can't move the ball and the defense is on the field all the time, sure, they're going to give up 7, 10 first half points. And then because they've been on the field 75% of the game, they wear down and they give up points. That's what's happened. The Jets have a great defense, but that's what's happened to them because they're on the field all the time. If the Browns don't have a quarterback that's going to move the ball and give the defense a rest, they're cooked.
No question. But again, when you could put up a 29 spot against that defense, that's pretty impressive. It is. It's impressive. And I'm not saying the Browns are a great team, because they're not. And they don't have a quarterback. Deshaun Watson is no longer a part of this team right now. He's injured for the rest of the season. He had shoulder surgery. So we're not going to see Deshaun Watson.
A massage right now.
Maybe he is. Maybe he's hanging out with somebody on your team. Robert Kraft. I mean, he knows how to get those
Robert
massages.
Kraft isn't on our team, but that's
hold on one second. He's the owner of your team, so he's part of that team.
He owns a business, big deal.
Yeah, so what? He likes to get those hand
guy.
massages, you know.
Right, yeah, you're gonna fault an 80-year-old guy for wanting to get a tug. It's the end of his life. Let him live.
Well, he's got a girlfriend. I think she's like 30 years old.
No, he's got a wife. He's got a wife, and she's an ophthalmologist, and she's 40.
Okay, I'm sorry. She's 40 years old.
Buddy, I'd like
She's
to see
my
when
age.
you look at 80 and pulling a 40-year-old. It's probably not going to happen.
Well-
Good on Robert Kraft for pounding that young stuff.
Well, if he is, I mean, she's probably giving him free hand jobs.
Well, he married her, so you assume, right?
Jeff, thank you for the call, man.
All right. Always a pleasure. Let's go.
He's so disgusting. He really is. I love it.
You got that right.
I love it. He is really funny. There are times that when he comes on the show, I can't stop laughing. And then after the show, when I'm listening to the show and the replay of the show, and I'm trying to go over some of the things that I said and some of the things everybody else said, when you hear Jeff, I actually cry sometimes when I'm listening to it because it is funny. All right.
Carl says Kraft playing the shocker.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. At 8:30, we'll be talking to former 49ers and Bengals, Panthers and Bears and Titans tight end Kevin Green. And it's not Kevin Green, the defensive lineman that passed away, the Hall of Famer. It is Kevin Green, who was a journeyman in the NFL as a tight end. So we will have him on the show. This is the first time he's been on our show. It'll be an interesting conversation, and we'll have some fun with him. I guarantee you. If you guys don't know who he is, by the end of the interview, you will know who he is. And at 9 o'clock, we will be talking to Houston Gamblers, USFL, wide receiver and tight end Brandon Barnes. He's been on the show. He played for the Lions, played for the Jets, played for the Raiders. We all know who. If you're a Jet fan, you remember Brandon Barnes when he was playing for the New York Football Jets. But to get back to the Aaron Rodgers thing, he said something interesting about Jordan Love. And Speedy, I want you to play this clip. it's so interesting. And obviously Speedy didn't play the beginning of the conversation and what he said about Jordan Love. And he said that Jordan Love has had his lumps, but he's figured it out. And it took him a little while, but he's starting to figure it out. So for all and every single guy, a writer or press coverage that has thrown this kid under the bus and said that this guy isn't any good, he's not the future quarterback of this organization, to move on. Maybe they draft a quarterback in this coming draft because there are quite a few quarterbacks that could fall to them depending on where they land, especially the way the season was going for the Green Bay Packers. Everybody was pretty much throwing Jordan Love under the bus. And this has been a problem because obviously these quarterbacks take, usually 3 years to fully develop as an NFL quarterback. It usually takes 3 years. Obviously, you have guys like Patrick Mahomes that develop. He played behind Alex Smith, and he has arguably one of the best offensive minds in Andy Reid in NFL history coaching him. So it's easier for him to figure things out offensively and reading defenses because he has a coach that understands reads and stuff like that. When you have rookie coaches, and I've said this about Zach Wilson, and I've thrown Zach Wilson under the bus for years and stuck up for him over the years because Mike LaFleur, everybody says, well, Mike LaFleur, look at Mike LaFleur. You have now Nathaniel Hackett, a working, understanding offensive coordinator that's done it with Blake Bortles. Why is he not doing it with Zach Wilson? Well, now we know Zach Wilson is a bust. But at the time, if the Jets actually gave him a veteran offensive coordinator that actually knows how to coach, maybe Zach Wilson isn't as bad as he is. Maybe he becomes a more developed quality quarterback. He hasn't been that way. And that's the big problem in the NFL. Look at what CJ Stroud's doing. I think he's fantastic. I thought he was the best quarterback in this class. Anybody will tell you. I thought him, and I also believed Will Levis was going to be a good quarterback, second-round pick by Tennessee. I didn't know how good Bryce Young was going to be because of his size and his stature and how thin he is. He has to put on some weight. I said the same thing about Russell Wilson, and look what Russell Wilson turned out to be. I've said that about I love Kyler Murray. If he doesn't talk in a third person, maybe he's a different respected quarterback in the league. His problem is he opens his mouth too much. Jordan Love is not a bust. I loved Jordan Love when the Green Bay Packers moved up in the first round. Now, did I think going into the season he was going to be as bad as he was in the first couple of games? No. But now I think maybe knocking off the Lions and figuring out how to play his game, maybe he's a different quarterback. Maybe he turns out to be a franchise quarterback. Is he Aaron Rodgers? Is he Brett Favre? No. These guys are all-time greats. And I understand the Green Bay Packers. They have Bart Starr, too. They've had great quarterbacks in their franchise. Who's to say that Jordan Love isn't one of those guys? I don't think he's Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think he's Brett Favre. But I think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah,
I almost said Stanley Cup, by the way.
Jordan Love, I think, has been
that would be nice.
Jordan Love, I think, has been a one-half type of quarterback so far this year. Like, he's sometimes bad in the first half, good in the second half, he'll bounce back. Or in the case of his game like the Atlanta game, was good in the first half and not so good in the second half. So I think him just putting it together is still going to be something that he has to figure out, because the Packers have to decide if they want to give him a fifth-year option this year. Is he had been worthy enough to be able to get that? Probably. I think the Packers' tough circumstances this year, we were talking about it with the MVP conversation. They've had issues with their wide receivers. They had issues with their offensive line when it comes to injuries. And Aaron Jones has been hurt this year. Like, this is tough circumstances for Jordan Love.
Watson, too.
Yeah. Jordan Love, I'm not saying he's going to be great. I'm not saying I still have my doubts with him in some aspects of his game, accuracy-wise, decision-making-wise. There's definitely been some doubts, but I would still give him more of a chance just because of that. Same kind of thing with Bryce Young. You look at somebody like Josh Allen. Josh Allen, when he got drafted by the Bills, had one of the worst receiving corps in the league. And Carolina has that this year outside of Adam Thielen.
Green Bay's offensive line is putrid. It's a horrible offensive line. And right now, if you look at Jordan Love, he has a 60.5 completion percentage, 2,599 yards. He's going to throw at least over 35 or between 35 and 3,800 yards, almost 4,000 yards, which is a good season for a quarterback. He has 19 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. How many games does he have left? 6 games. He's probably going to throw close to almost 30 touchdowns this year, maybe 28. And who's his wide receivers? He doesn't have anybody. Nobody that's big that stands out. He doesn't have Devontae Adams. Who does he have? Watson? Christian Watson could be a good wide receiver, but he also played with Aaron Rodgers. So they don't have a real number one. And if you look at his numbers, these are quality numbers right now for Jordan Love. And I love Aaron Rodgers sticking up for the young quarterbacks. Bryce Young, is he having a great season? No. Does that mean he's going to be a bad quarterback in the NFL? No, it doesn't. It could take it. Look, they fired Frank Reich. Now, I don't think it was Frank Reich, and we're going to transition.
No.
We're going to transition into the Frank Reich firing because I don't understand that either. But you sit here and they have to point their fingers at somebody, and everybody believes that Frank Reich, out of C.J. Stroud and Will Levis and Richardson, that was what Frank Reich wanted. He wanted Bryce Young. Now, I don't know if the Carolina Panthers were saying, you know what, you wanted him, you screwed up, we're firing you now because you picked the wrong guy. I don't know if that's the truth. Maybe he lost the team. I don't know the story. And I'm sure there's things that are going to come out over the next couple of weeks. But what we do know is that Bryce Young has not developed early in his career. And we've seen quarterbacks. Peyton Manning had one of the worst seasons for a quarterback in his first year. And then after that, he was one of the best quarterbacks. So it takes a little while for him to figure out the speed of the NFL.
Yeah, and especially in today's game, too. I think where the wide receivers are a lot more centric to a young quarterback's development, outside of Mahomes and probably a few others. Like, every quarterback that's now considered an elite or that top 10 quarterback has been elevated by a good wide receiver. Josh Allen had Stephon Diggs. Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown. Like, all these guys have the combinations of that to make it work. Even somebody like Lamar Jackson, they had to draft Zay Flowers and sign a bunch of free agents to even get that receiving core to work. Carolina doesn't have that. Yes, they made Adam Thielen work, and Frank Reich is the one that deserves a lot of credit for that, rebirthing Adam Thielen to what he was 3 years ago in Minnesota. And Bryce Young, that's the one reliable target he has. Like, they don't have anything at tight end. Their depth has not been good. I liked Mingo without a draft.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, he has not turned into much of anything yet. He's a good route runner, but still not great beyond that. And DJ Chark, they brought in, he's old, and like they don't have
he's not even that old.
Yeah, they have the fifth worst or fourth worst rushing attack in the league. It's not like they have the other end to help him out. And their defense on paper is actually good against the pass, but they're really bad against the run. So it's just a bad combination of everything. It's not everything on Bryce Young. Yes, Bryce Young pre-snap and reading defenses hasn't been great. I'll criticize him that it's worse than I expected out of the draft, but that's not all on him either. So I agree with Aaron Rodgers. Give him more of a chance. I do not get the Frank Reich hiring either. And Carolina is digging themselves in a deep pit.
He should have taken the Jets job when the Jets offered him the job as the offensive coordinator. I think Zach Wilson would be a better quarterback right now because he was a quarterback, not a successful NFL quarterback, but he's helped develop quarterbacks over the years. So the Panthers fired head coach Frank Reich following their Week 12 loss against the Titans. Reich becomes the first coach in NFL history to be fired in back-to-back seasons. Since David Tepper bought the Panthers in 2019, they have fired 3 different coaches in the middle of the season. The Panthers will still owe Reich $25 million and are still paying Matt Rule as well. Another report mentioned that the Panthers ownership and front office wanted to draft Bryce Young at number 1 overall, but Reich wanted to draft C.J. Stroud. So here starts the twist. Greg Olson has also been mentioned. He would be interested in taking the coaching job if it was offered to him. The Panthers are 1-10 this season and are at the bottom 5 in all offensive statistics this season. So now when you hear that he wanted C.J. Stroud, they weren't on the same page. And that tells me one thing. When they hired Frank Reich and they said that this was his team, he was going to be a big part of who he wanted as his quarterback and the transition into the season. He didn't get the quarterback that he wanted. And maybe this team is different if they have C.J. Stroud. Now, I still think Bryce Young could be a good quarterback. I really do. I don't know what he is and what he could be in the future. But what we have seen this year is, 1, he looks too small. 2, he's not very good outside of the pocket. And 3, if he is a pocket quarterback, could he actually see over those big offensive linemen that are 6'8", 6'7", and he makes everything a single throw? He's not Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has wheels. The guy can run. He can make throws on the run. He's different. He plays a different style of quarterback. When he played for Alabama, he did use his legs here and there. The NFL is much faster. These guys are much bigger, much faster, much more athletic. So he's not going to be able to do those things that he did in Alabama on the Carolina Panthers. So the Carolina Panthers have to give him weapons around him. Adam Thielen is not good enough, in my eyes, to build your team and your quarterback around for the future. So Mingo, everybody thought was going to be good. He hasn't. They brought him in. He stinks. I don't know if he looks old. I think he's 27, 28 years old. That's not an old wide receiver, but he hasn't developed into the wide receiver that they thought he was going to be, or anybody thought he was going to be when he was going to be drafted. So to me, it's been an absolute bust this season and this offseason. Are you going to blame Frank Wright? The one who should be fired is the general manager.
Or the one that should be looked at is this ownership, because 3 different coaches have gotten fired since David Tepper has gotten going midseason. Ron Rivera got fired in 2019, then Matt Rule last year, now Frank Reich this year. And you're going to lose that kind of reputation with players and with coaches when you have this kind of ego inflating on your team. And we saw that happen with, obviously, Washington when Dan Snyder was there. And players, they had to overpay players to want to go there. They had a pretty good run of player development for a while, but none of them stayed there after their rookie year. They traded Chase Young and Montez Sweat, obviously, at trade deadline. And the Panthers, they could have traded Brian Burns. They obviously traded DJ Moore. They're losing that kind of reputation now, too.
Frank Wright is Rex Ryan. He leaves the Jets, takes the Buffalo Bills job. He's not there for 1 year. He's there for 2 years, and he gets fired. I mean, it reminds me of the same thing with Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan should have taken a step back, became a defensive coordinator again, tried to, ease his way back into it. Look at Spagnuolo. Look how long he lost the job with the Rams. And ever since then, he's been a defensive coordinator. He really has not gotten offered a job ever since then. So you sit back and you wonder, when you look at Spagnuolo and you look at the position of some of these coaches over the years, look at how many coaches didn't get a coaching job. And we have one right now, the offensive coordinator over there with the Commanders,
right,
that has been asking and praying for a job, and he's interviewed for how many jobs, how many position jobs?
At least 8.
I've heard 14.
Wow.
So when you look at the position at some of these coaches, and hey, listen, some people are built to be coaches and some people are just built to be coordinators. We've seen that. But to throw Frank Wright under the bus in one season with a rookie quarterback, to me, it's a joke. It is an absolute joke. And the Carolina Panthers, if I was a coach right now and I see that Olsen wants to take the job, he might be the only one that wants the job.
Right.
Why would anybody want this job?
And again, you look at the beginning of other young quarterbacks' tenures too, that really got ugly right away. You saw that with the Jets when Sam Darnold was there. You saw that with the Browns with Baker Mayfield. The ownership tends to get in the way and have too much of their egos get in the way. It generally drags a team down. The one thing you want to be as an organization in terms of both the front office and the coach is connected. And that's what Buffalo, the model they had when they brought in Sean McDermott and Josh Allen. Now, this season hasn't been as good, but they've had stability there because of that. The Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they had stability. The Bengals, all the young quarterbacks that have succeeded have some stability with the connection of their coach and their GM. And the Panthers decided to go this route of, all right, let's get this really rich owner to buy the team. David Tepper, when I think before the Broncos sale this year, and the Commanders obviously, was the richest owner. And they were going to bring the reputation in of, we're going to spend for everything. But at the same time, the egos have driven it on so much, and it's driven other players away. And now, when they don't have a first round pick, they don't have not much talent wise on the offense. Nobody's going to want to take that kind of job that's a reputable offensive coach, maybe besides Greg Olsen. And you're going to really put this franchise in a pit where nobody's going to want to go there. And the reputation of this team is going to be destroyed.
And that's the problem right now, where you look at the Carolina Panthers and they're going to go into the offseason again, looking for a head coach. They're paying 2 of them right now.
Right.
And who is going to take this job? Is Jim Harbaugh, if he becomes available, going to interview for this job? Why would he want it? There's nothing there. I mean, Vegas at least is going to give him probably stock in the team or something. And he still has weapons there. If he could talk Devontae Adams to stay there, maybe he has Devontae Adams there, maybe not. But they can rebuild with Jim Harbaugh there, and Jim Harbaugh will have say. Is he going to have say? Obviously, Frank Wright didn't have say. He wanted C.J. Stroud, and they decided to draft Bryce Young. So ownership and the GM obviously has more say than the head coach. And that tells me one thing, and that shows me one thing. Why would anybody, any good coach right now, that could be available, offensive, defensive coordinator, or ex-coach, would want to take a job like this.
Yep, and we talked about it with Jonathan Taylor in the offseason. We talked about it with the Raiders and all their dysfunction. When the owners have too much say in a team, it usually doesn't work. And a lot of the teams that have fallen apart in recent years, or maybe haven't been as good as expected in recent years, have been because of ownership that keeps getting in the way. Now we finally see other teams deviating away from that. The Bengals are not getting, Mike Brown's not getting in the way. They're actually getting better now. Miami, who was we bashed for years, so their ownership gets in the way. Now they finally actually have good football concepts in there. Other teams have to take a book out of those teams and change it where let the football guys run the team and the ownership just spends the money, gets out of the way. Because the Panthers were never like this before. For the first 25 or so years of their franchise existence, have we ever seen them this dysfunctional? Yeah, they'll have a bad year here and there. I'm not saying they're an amazing
And people
team.
forget how good Fox was as a head coach.
I know.
He was a great coach. He was the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants. He took over that job. He wasn't the sexy hire, but look what he did over there with the Panthers all those years. He took them to a Super Bowl and a team that he was given that wasn't that good. Okay. It really was. It was more of a veteran team that was not drafting the right pieces, but he brought it together. He got that defense to start playing for him. And then Jake Delhomme, he actually brought him out of the, the depths of the world at the quarterback position. So, I mean, again, maybe all it takes is one coach that you never heard of, or a coach that's not the shiny little ticket or the golden ticket, as we all Willy Wonka. That's a Willy Wonka thing, by the way, the new Wonka movie coming out. But hey, maybe somebody that you never heard of, or maybe a special teams coach, takes this job and actually takes this team into a better position and a better opportunity, and be opportunistic that this team could be a Super Bowl contender in the future. The Athletic Bruce Feldman reports that John Gruden is a serious candidate to become the next Indiana head coach. Indiana bought out the remainder of the contract of their previous head coach, Tom Allen. John Gruden's dad, Jim Gruden, worked as an assistant coach for Indiana from 1973 to 77. Gruden is currently working as a consultant with the Saints and specifically with Derek Carr. Gruden is also still in a legal battle against the NFL over the leaked emails that exposed racist and homophobic language, which led to him resigning as the Raiders head coach in 2021. Gruden has a 21-39 record with the Raiders from 2018 until his resignation in 2021. I love this, by the way. I love John Gruden. I think he's one of the more underrated coaches of our time. I understand that he did what he did, and those racist leaks of emails came out with the whole Washington Commanders and the NFL and exposed him. Out of all the people, the 90 or 80 people that were involved with those emails, it exposed John Gruden. And he lost his job. He lost all the money that he was obviously offered by Davis, $100 million. He got a contract from Mark Davis. But I sit here today, and John Gruden deserves a second chance. He does. Did he make a mistake? Did he say stupid things? Yes. Was it supposed to be leaked? What should it have been leaked? No. Why hasn't anything else been leaked over the last couple of years? Why? And they needed a scapegoat. That's what Goodell, and that's what obviously Schneider, they needed a scapegoat. Goodell was protecting Schneider because he was one of the owners, and that's what the commissioner does. He protects the owners. But it's despicable. With what I've heard, there were at least, this is what I hear, there were at least 50 to 60 different people, 50 or more different people in those emails. And it wasn't just John Gruden spitting out homophobic or racist remarks. But why was he thrown under the bus? He lost his job. He might not ever get a coaching job. People said that you will never see John Gruden as a head coach. Now you're hearing this story because Indiana's looking past it. Why? Because John Gruden's father was an assistant coach for Indiana in 1973 and to 1977. Is this a good move for Indiana? Absolutely. One, he's going to help recruit, and he will definitely recruit very, very well. It is John Gruden. He will bring in a great quarterback. Don't be surprised if he gets hired that in 3 or 4 years, John Gruden has the number 1 pick in the draft as far as the quarterback position.
Yeah, it's tough because the Indiana's in a really tough spot with the Big Ten.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, coming in as it is with Washington, UCLA, and USC.
John Gruden.
They have to take that kind of big chance, I feel like, because they're never been except for the COVID shortened season when they were actually pretty good, they've never been a football team at all. Like, not even close to competing. Yes, they've spawned in some good NFL running backs. Not Bilal Powell, Tevin Coleman being one of them. They've had some individual guys that have been fine. But again, in the Big Ten East, which is already so difficult as it is with Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, etc., they have to make that kind of flashy move to at least try to get their program to turn around. Now, how he connects with the players again at a college age versus an NFL age is something that's going to be an
He works
unknown.
with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He was working with Peyton Manning. He had his own quarterback school. He knows how to coach. He's a great coach, and people will follow him. Even the young players will follow this kid. Look at what Deion Sanders has done. He's changed the college game. He's changed the NCAA and this whole portal thing. Everybody wants to play for Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders has only coached for how many years? Jackson State, and he's in Colorado. What is it, like 4 years? He's been a head coach. John Gruden's been a coach for over 30 years, and this guy has coached college ball before. He understands the game, and he understands the speed of the game. So why wouldn't Indiana actually hire a guy like John Gruden? This is a guy that has accomplished a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. Why couldn't he win a national championship? Now, I don't know if he wins one with Indiana, but anything's possible. If you recruit, you portal the right guys, you have the right system intact over there in Indiana. Why couldn't they do it? We saw Utah go to the NCAA championship game against Georgia last year. Did anybody think Utah was going to be there?
And again, also you look at the adaptation aspect of John Gruden, where he's been a lot of different spots throughout his career with the Raiders. Then he went to the Buccaneers, a team that was so dysfunctional for a while, was able to make that kind of thing work, wins the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. And then he turned into a broadcaster. And it seems like I think he's evolved the modern concepts of the game too, where I think that could help. Now, player relationships are going to be a question because, again, college kids will be able to do it to the same level as NFL guys. That's different. And knowing the new concepts with the transfer portal, with all that stuff, is that something that he's going to be able to take on easier?
The guy's a genius. But he is a genius.
But Indiana is not going to be able to get that with anything anyway, because Indiana's not a program reputation.
But here's the thing. He can make it a reputation. He can change everything for Indiana. That's the whole point. You bring in a big name like John Gruden, that changes everything. Look at Texas. Did anybody believe that Archie Manning was going to go to Texas? I mean, what has Texas done? What have they done?
Jokes and big games.
Hey, here's what they did. They paid him under the table. That's what they did. And what are they doing now? What are now college teams doing? Because they can pay players and players can make money off their own names. They're starting to draw. Who's to say Indiana and a guy like John Gruden couldn't do that? Mm-hmm. John Gruden is a great coach. He is a great coach when it comes to building men. Yeah, he's made mistakes. Everybody's made mistakes. Does he deserve a second chance? Absolutely. We've all deserved a second chance. We've all made mistakes over the years and some of the stupid things. I have said some stupid things over the years. I have. Have I thrown myself under the bus? Absolutely. Have I taken the brunt of it on social media and everything that I've been on? 100%. But do I sit here and tell you that I was wrong or right? Listen, you make mistakes. Things happen. John Gruden made a mistake. It should not have been released. And obviously, it's cost him. It's cost him an opportunity maybe to be an NFL coach. But maybe if he goes to Indiana and shows at the NFL that he can win with a school that hasn't won in years and take them to a big-time ball game, or maybe even take them to that Final Four if he recruits right and he portals right. Who's to say that John Gruden doesn't get another chance in the NFL?
And they need to try that, because they are not going to have it just based on the funding either. Because you mentioned Texas. Yeah, they have the funding because they're still one of the richest universities. They're still one of the richest football programs. Texas A&M, it didn't work, but they still were able to get it that way. Now, again,
I love that, by the way.
And you look at the combination of how it's carried over in other sports too, like just football's monopoly on other NCAA sports because of their governing bodies, the way it's happened.
Were you good at Monopoly?
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah. The other schools have been able to strive that are also good football programs in other sports. Now, I'm not saying that these football teams win national championships all the time, but we talked about it last year during NCAA tournament with Carl. Like Carl saying how good Michigan basketball has gotten because of the way Michigan football, the funding that they brought in because of that. And now they've been able to get transfers. They've been able to get a reputable program, even with all the controversy with Juwan Howard and all that stuff. And same kind of things with a lot of the other Big Ten schools. Indiana doesn't have that same kind of thing. So they have to start it with somewhere else. So why not bring in a guy football concept wise that can at least try to adapt to that. Will it work? I don't know. But you have to have that kind of thing to start a program because it's not going to change overnight for a lot of these teams.
Nothing's going to change overnight. And that's the secret here. If you bring the right guy in and you put the right guy in position to take over a school or an organization, and he understands how to lead men, and he understands that. Look, Deion Sanders, it hasn't worked out for him right now. Colorado, everything he did for Jackson State, he's starting to figure out that this is Division I football. And I know Jackson State was a Division I school, but I mean, the conference that he's in now, it's a much harder conference. It's not the best. It's not the SEC. It's not the Big Ten, or you know what I mean? It's not.
And now they're transferring to the Big 12. So,
yeah, it's not that. So now you look at this story with Deion Sanders, and this is an interesting story. Bleacher Report NFL insider Jordan Schultz reports that several teams are interested in Deion Sanders as a head coach. The Athletic reports that many NFL executives definitely believe that Sanders is going to be a very popular target for teams. Colorado has lost 2 assistant coaches since the regular season ended, and have lost several 5-star recruits to transfer portals as well. There is belief that Byron Leftwich would be very interested in joining Colorado with or without Deion Sanders there. Colorado started with the season at 3-0, but finished the season 4-8 and are 1-8 against Pac-12 teams. Here's the thing, and I say this very nicely because I have a lot of respect for Deion Sanders. He's one of the, if not the greatest cornerback to ever play in the game, DB, whatever. He's fantastic. I mean, you could argue Darrelle Revis, him, and maybe Woodson. Those are the 3 guys that I would stand out from all the rest. But we have heard Deion Sanders in the last year, when he's been at the Super Bowl and he was interviewed by Rich Eisen and all the different people that he's interviewed with. And he has come out and said that he will never coach in the NFL. He will never take a coaching job in the NFL because he doesn't want to coach rich men, because he knows that they're all about themselves and they don't play the game right. And they give up on plays. They don't do the right thing. He said that he wants to teach young men how to play the game so they can develop and make it to the NFL. It hasn't worked in Colorado. Now he's going to sit back. Now, I don't know what Deion Sanders is thinking, but you know damn well when somebody flashes money in front of the great Deion Sanders' face, and he loves to call himself prime time, and he thinks that he can coach anywhere and he can win a national championship, and maybe he thought that he was going to get the Alabama job after Nick Saban steps down. I don't know what he was thinking, but it wasn't going to work. And now you see all these different teams reaching out, and maybe probably reaching out to his agent saying, hey, you know what, Deion, could you be prime over here and take over a coaching job in the NFL and succeed? Honestly, he hasn't succeeded in Colorado. What makes anybody think that he will succeed in the NFL? Now, people and players will respect Deion Sanders because he's achieved the impossible. I mean, this guy was a professional baseball player. He was a professional football player. He was a decent baseball player, not a great one, but a good one. And he was a fantastic football player. And we all know what he did. He's the only player in NFL history to play 2 sports at the same time. Okay? He's the only one. But you sit here and you wonder the position that Deion Sanders has put himself into. If he takes an NFL job, if he actually decides, he would look like an idiot, because he told everybody he was so straightforward with Rich Eisen. He was so straightforward. I remember the interview. He said, I will never coach in the NFL. Never. He said that. And now all of a sudden, because everybody's interested in Deion Sanders because he's done okay as a college coach at Jackson State, and he really failed. How many portal guys that he bring into this team? Changed everything in one season, brought his own team. And yes, his son, who was so great. And now all of a sudden his son was going to go into the draft this year. And because he's fallen out of the first round, his father said, oh, he's going to play at least one more year of college ball, because he knows he's not going to be a first-round pick. He's not good enough.
Especially not in this quarterback draft. There's going to be 5, maybe 6 first-round type prospects in this draft, too.
Yeah, so next year might be easier for him to be a first-round pick. Mm-hmm. And that's why Deion Sanders pretty much came out and said that he is not going to go into the NFL draft. But you sit here right now, has Deion Sanders proven anything as a head coach? And the answer is no, he hasn't. He has to prove that he can win with a team like this in a conference that's not even that good.
Yeah, and also you look at all these rumors of college coaches taking leaps to the NFL over the years, and most of them don't come to fruition because the concepts are very different. And especially now with these younger coaches that have come into college football and, well, quote unquote, succeeded right away that's another gray area that you could judge for another time. But the concepts of using the transfer portal, especially as your main focal point, is not going to be something that's going to work in the NFL, because the NFL, you have a salary cap. The NFL, you have a restriction of draft picks. The NFL, you have a restriction of how many things you could trade in a trade too. So there's so many concepts that have to be taken into that, along with scheme, along with complicated offenses and defensive concepts that are being brought in. That it's not going to be easily adaptable in the college game. Now, granted, I think there's been some coming together of it. More college concepts are coming to the NFL and vice versa. But at the same time, that doesn't make you qualified as a head coach necessarily for having those concepts to be able to transfer in the NFL just because you played in the NFL. It's a whole different thing. It's a whole different game from when Deion Sanders played too.
Look at Jeff Saturday.
Yep.
Jeff Saturday took over the Indianapolis Colts last year. He failed. And it was only a couple of games. And I knew there was no way he was going to get that job, because we saw enough of Jeff Saturday and his coaching ability that he couldn't. And I'm not saying he won't be a good NFL coach. He just wasn't ready at that time to be an NFL coach. I love Olsen. I think he's a great commentator. He was a good player, one of the better tight ends when he was healthy. Is he a head coach? Could he take over? How many tight ends in NFL history came to the NFL as a head coach and has been successful?
I think the only one is Dan Campbell right now.
Yeah, and Robert Saleh, he was a tight end too, but he never played in the NFL.
Right.
He never did. He's a defensive coordinator. He was a tight end who is a defensive coordinator. Does that make sense? I know, but
same logic was applied to the Patriots when they brought Matt Patricia in.
Mr. Scientist himself. I mean, seriously, the only thing he science is the rocket up his ass. I mean, seriously, I honestly, I don't know what Deion Sanders is going to be. And if he does take a job, and he will interview, there's no question he will interview a job, because he loves to be, he likes to be, he wants everybody to kiss his ass. Okay. That's Deion Sanders. He's like that for years. And I don't know him personally, and I have a lot of respect for him. I think Prime is one of the best players I've ever seen at his position. There's no question that he is. But to sit here right now and try to compare him and say that he's going to take over an NFL job and he's going to succeed, I can't see it. I can't see it right now. He will be fired in 2 years, no more than that. And now a team's going to sit back and say, you know what, we'll hire Prime because next year he can get his son and we'll have him and his son. Why would you want his son? I have seen enough of Shakur, okay? I have seen enough of him. He is no way any talented than any of the quarterbacks that are going to be drafted in this class. No, Penix, any of them. May, none of them. There's nobody in this draft that he's better than. So you sit here and you wonder, what the hell is Deion Sanders thinking? And by the way, I understand he's trying to protect his son, but it doesn't make any sense, because if you want your son to be great, you got to put him through the furnace. You got to put him through the fire. And if he's not a first-round draft pick, and let's say he falls to the third round, let him prove. Russell Wilson did it.
Right.
Russell Wilson did it. He went from NC State to Wisconsin, and he was a third-round draft pick. And by the way, if you remember, Matt Flynn was signed from Green Bay to be the starting quarterback in Seattle. And what did it take? What did it take? It took, 2 games in the preseason to realize that Russell Wilson ran the offense better than him.
Yep.
And Matt Flynn was the highest backup quarterback in the NFL for 2 years. He was making like $11 million.
Yep. For really like 3 games he played. That was it.
I mean, that by itself, you have to understand that you have to be put in a position to fail, to understand how to crawl out of it. Look at Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott lost his mom, lost his brother, drafted in the 4th round. Everybody was shooing him, giving up on him, thinking that he wasn't going to achieve anything. He took the job, yes, to everybody's beloved Tony Romo, okay? Yes, he was injured, but he stole the job. He took the job from Tony Romo, and he has never looked back. Never. But everybody hates him. Everybody's given up on him. It's ridiculous. I understand what Jeff's saying. I'm just speaking the truth here. You have to be put in the furnace. If you're look at Pat Mahomes. Was Pat Mahomes really a good college quarterback? He really wasn't.
He had a lot of interceptions.
He was from Texas A&M. He had a great arm. Oh, I'm sorry. Texas Tech. Whatever. He played college ball. Was he a successful quarterback in the NFL? I mean, in college football? The answer is no. And we've seen successful quarterbacks that were in college football. They were not successful quarterbacks in the NFL. The transition and the speed, you have to understand how to play the game, how to make reads. As you heard Aaron Rodgers say it. But you sit here and you try to look at a guy like Deion Sanders, and I'm going to say this again, and I'm being quite honest. It's not easy to coach in the NFL. We have seen it. We have seen how many coaches fail as offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, special teams guys that have taken over coaching jobs. And you have guys like not Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, who was a special teams guy for Baltimore, takes over the job, and the guy hasn't looked back. But he comes from a list of great coaches of his family. His father was a good coach. His brother's a pretty damn good coach. So, and I know a lot of people don't like Jim Harbaugh, but he's a good coach. He took a 49ers team that had no business going to the Super Bowl 3 years. Oh, yeah. Okay? A team that was horrible when Singletary took over that team. That was a horrible team. He takes over and changes everything. That's a sign of a good coach. And look what he did for Stanford, Andrew Luck. You say whatever you want. He helped develop Andrew Luck. So and look at McCarty. I don't know what he is going to be. I don't know what he's going to be as a quarterback in the NFL, but I bet you he's a lot better than people think because Jim Harbaugh coached him all these years. What is this? His third year, fourth year as a quarterback?
With Michigan, McCarthy's third
McCarthy,
year.
That's what I meant.
Third year.
This is the third year. So McCarthy has an opportunity to probably be a late first-round draft pick. Who's to say he's not the best quarterback in this class? I mean, right now, you would think not. Caleb Williams, and then you got Drake May. Everybody keeps talking about all the big names, and Penix, and all these other guys that could win the Heisman Trophy. Nobody's talking about McCarthy. But who's to say that he can't? So that's what I'm saying. You just don't know. And to go back to Deion Sanders, what I do know is he doesn't want to be there. He's come out and said that he doesn't want to be there. So why even interview him? If you know that he has no real thought to taking over an NFL team and coaching NFL players, why would you interview him?
Yeah, and again, what type of qualification is this just because he was a great NFL player? Because look at other sports, too. Wayne Gretzky coached in the NHL and did not go very well for him coaching. Just because he was one of the greatest players of your sports history does not mean you're automatically going to get it on to other people. Same kind of thing with basketball. Like Michael Jordan bought the Hornets, and I'm not saying it's his fault the team was dysfunctional, but like it doesn't mean you're going to all of a sudden grow a good program. And in football especially, you really have to grow a program, develop players. You can't buy a championship in football. It's very hard to do. And you look at the program reputation that Colorado had, 60-something transfers are coming over.
It's crazy.
I would imagine more than half of them are paid under the table. And that kind of system is not going to work in the NFL when you have a salary cap. Yes, the salary cap will go up because of TV deals and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean it's going to transfer into a successful team. You can't win free agency and have all of a sudden be a Super Bowl champion every year either. And we've seen a lot of teams try to do that and have it epically fail. And then all of a sudden you're stuck with a lot of bad contracts and you're digging yourselves out of a hole like we were talking about with Carolina, and you're losing that kind of reputation. Any team that takes that kind of chance that Deion Sanders fails as a head coach is not going to be very good.
I don't know why anybody would sell and actually buy a guy like Deion Sanders after the failure of a year that he's had with Colorado. Right. He pretty much told all the recruits before him that take a hike, look for another portal, look for another school because I don't want you here. He pretty much told them. I watched when he was speaking to the kids, that he said that don't take it to heart if we decide to part ways with you because we want to bring in the right players to run my system. He said that. And to me, I give him a lot of credit because most coaches would probably be smacked around if he said that to a bunch of recruited kids that were already recruited by the first coach and usually stays there and would love to be coached by Deion Sanders and pretty much tossed away. So this has been a problem. This has been a problem in the NFL, and this has been a problem in college football. And now with the portals and the transition of the way the portals are working, some people like it, and other people, we've had coaches come on the show and tell us that they don't like it. They think it's bad. It's bad for the sport. So it's very interesting. NBA reporter Mark Stein reports that Mark Cuban is selling the majority of his stake of the Dallas Mavericks. He is selling it to Miriam Edelson for a stake worth $3.5 billion. The Mavericks are worth $4.5 billion. According to Forbes, they are the seventh most profitable NBA franchise. The Edelson family is a juggernaut at the casino industries, something that Cuban is interested in if sports betting becomes legal in Dallas. Cuban will still serve as the head of basketball operations and make decisions on all the financial decisions of the team. The Mavericks have always been in the top half of the league in player salaries since Cuban has bought the team in 2000, and even have the two biggest contracts in the NBA this season with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. I'm going to say this very, very nicely. I am so shocked that Mark Cuban sold his full stake, practically all of his stake, to, I understand that the Edelson family, they're into casinos, and obviously they've made billion. I think she's worth like $35 billion or some crazy amount.
Yeah, I think
of
it's
money.
one of the highest casino moguls in the country.
Yeah, she's made billions and billions of dollars. She's a very smart woman. I think she's 80 years old.
Her husband just passed away 2 years ago.
Yeah, and she always wanted to own a team. She came out, she actually sold one of her stakes in one of the casinos and took a couple of billion out of it because she wanted to buy a professional sports team, maybe for her kids to take over. I don't know. And I don't understand why she would let Mark Cuban obviously serve as the head of basketball operations when he's pretty much selling his stake of the team. So are you paying him? Is he making a couple of $1 million?
Well, I love Shark Tank, so he's not going to get any more with that.
Well, he doesn't need the money.
I didn't say he did. But
Mark Cuban is a multi-billionaire. I mean, $3.5 billion. I don't know how much he's worth before this, but he's got it.
I think it's like 12 something.
Yeah, he's worth over, at least $12 billion, $10 billion. So he didn't need the money. And I was so very surprised because this was, to me, unless he's looking to buy another team or he's looking to buy into another sport, maybe football, maybe baseball in the future. I know he was interested in the Mets. I don't know. Maybe he just got sick of obviously running the Dallas Mavericks. Maybe that was the whole point of bringing in Kyrie Irving because he knew he was going to part ways. I don't know. But if you look at this story, I was shocked when I heard that Mark Cuban would sell the team when he has come out numerous amount of times when obviously Dirk Nowitzki was there and Steve Nash was there and Jason Kidd has been there. He came out and said that he would never sell this team. He would never sell this team. And now all of a sudden he sells it for $3.5 billion. Now, I don't know if there's something behind it. I understand that he has his interest in casinos, but what does that have anything to do with the Edelson family? Why would they bring him involved with the casino when they own the rights to the Mavericks? It doesn't make sense. Now, you can understand why the Edelson family wanted to do this, because if it does become legalized, if sports betting becomes legalized in Dallas, they can build a casino. They can build a casino right around the Dallas Mavericks and really build an unbelievable facility over there around their professional sports. Look at Vegas. Look what they're doing right now. Look at the money they're bringing in because there's a football team there, and they're obviously a hockey team that's won a Stanley Cup and has been very successful over there. Now they're bringing a baseball team, the A's, there. So you're seeing the transition and what it does for the sports teams if they've been brought to areas where there's more money and there's obviously the tax situation. I mean, Dallas, there's no, I think, state taxes.
Yeah.
So it would be perfect right there. And by the way, him selling it for $3.5 billion, how much is he getting taxed for that? I mean, seriously, it was a good move. I understand it's a business move for him, but did he really need to do that? If he waited another, I don't know, 5 to 6 years, he probably would have made at least $8 billion off of it. So I don't understand this move by a guy like Mark Cuban.
Yeah, I'm surprised too because I know it's labeled as a majority stake, but I mean it's not like you're getting the massive investment that you could have gotten. Yes, Dallas is the 7th most profitable NBA team since he's brought.
You know who's
bought
number
the
one,
team.
right?
Yeah, the Knicks. I know. Yes, and hopefully.
Who would have thought?
Hopefully James Dolan takes a book out of Mark Cuban's book, but we'll find out. But he's going to get a lot more regardless. But even so. I'm surprised.
He'd be swimming in the cash. He'd be Scrooge McDuck.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what he'd be doing.
Maybe he'd be swimming in the cash, and then maybe he starts singing in it with his band.
No, he's never selling Madison Square Garden.
No, I know that. But even so, when you look at the situation with Cuban, I would have thought he would have only done it for more than probably $5-6 billion if he was going to do that kind of move. Because you're right, he's had so much impact on the organization from the basketball standpoint that I'm surprised he would just give it away that quickly. I know he's still going to have some basketball decision-making power, but we've also seen him have that kind of power when he's been full ownership of the team too. And he has been spending a lot of money, bringing all these flashy veterans, Steve Nash, Vince Carter, they brought in for a while. Like they definitely, Jason Kidd later on in his
Washed
career.
up players, by the way.
Yeah, but again, reputable name. I'm not saying it worked for all the time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Mark, for giving us such a reputable team, okay? And the reputation of these players. Vince Carter, yeah, he was great when he played for Toronto. And by the way, I love Vince Carter. I loved him as a player. I love everything about him. I saw his documentary. It was a great hour documentary. If anybody checked out the Vince Carter story, that's a sensational story, how he helped basketball grow in Toronto.
Yep.
He really did. Chris Bosh would have never been drafted if it wasn't for Vince Carter. It's unbelievable. It's a really great documentary. If anybody has a chance, definitely check out that Vince Carter documentary.
And I'm not saying that Mark Cuban going for all this flash either has worked all the time because they've had some really bad contracts with a lot of these older players too. But a lot of NBA fans were calling Chandler Parsons when they brought him in the worst contract in the NBA, and they were stuck with that forever too. They signed Harrison Barnes to that ridiculous contract, so they had to trade him after 2 years and got nothing for him. So sometimes it hasn't worked. But I'm just from a individual standpoint, I'm surprised he would just grasp that concept of his life and just throw it away like that.
It's a billionaire. It's the life of a billionaire.
Yeah, right.
Hey, you know what? It's just $1 billion. Who cares?
Well, yeah, for us, $3.5 billion is a lot. For him, it's like
$3,
nothing.
$4, $5 billion. I mean, $1 million is a lot of money for me.
Of course.
$1 billion.
Right.
Could you think these guys throw away money and you hear $1 billion? It's like, oh, it's just $1 billion. Like,
right.
Just $1 billion. I mean, it's crazy. And what these teams are worth now. I mean, it's serious money now. Like we were saying, the Knicks, I think the Knicks are worth like $8 or $9 billion.
Yep.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And the Rangers are about $4 billion, $5 billion. Do you know that the Rangers are worth more than Mark Cuban got for his Mavericks?
Yep.
That's crazy. A hockey team.
And now James Dolan can sell the Knicks for double of what, maybe triple of what Mark Cuban just did.
Oh, he is. If he ever sells the New York Knicks, you're talking about billions and billions of dollars. And what he's doing, and I have to give James Dolan a lot of credit as far as a multi-billionaire. He's not just selling. He's just not throwing it away. He is making sure that he is going to make the best profitable deal on the Knicks if he decides to sell them, and the Rangers. So I give him a lot of credit. You could say whatever you want. You hate his guts. He's an idiot. Whatever. You want to kill him. You want to shoot him. You want to dance on his face. Whatever you want to do.
We just want him to have it sing, and then
the guy is a brilliant businessman. Mark Cuban, this is not a good business move. I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he's having struggles. He's worth $12 billion. So how much struggles is he having? I mean, why would you give up the rights to this? This is your baby. This is your baby. So I don't understand.
And I also feel like, too, like you were saying, like with sports betting being a prevalent part of the industry now for sports, like you could have just done a smaller stake in this ownership group.
If it became legalized, and I understand maybe he wants to buy into the casino.
Maybe.
Will she allow that? I mean, she could have said that, but hey, if they don't have a contract for that, she could say, "Oh, you know, Mark, I gave you $3.5 billion. Go take a hike." You know?
Yeah, I just think they still could have done that kind of partnership and that kind of maybe growth potential on a smaller stake. Like
he could have still owned the Dallas Mavericks, got her involved, gave her a little bit of stake to it, and said, "You know what? When it becomes legalized here in Dallas, which it should be in the next 5 years, we can work
2
on
years, maybe
whatever.
Yeah.
We could build a casino that way." So I don't understand this move. It's not a smart move by him in a business standpoint. This guy is a smart businessman, and this is a stupid move as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's just surprising too, with the upside of what the sports betting could be, especially too. Now, maybe the delay of how long it's going to take for them to make it legal in Texas. Maybe that's what he's worried about, but that's the kind of thing could definitely still be done with like a $2 billion investment or a $1 billion investment, not the majority of your stake. What is that, 75% of the ownership that you're giving up there for that?
Gave up everything practically.
Yeah.
I mean, he has no control over that team anymore.
No.
She makes all the decisions now. And her making him head of basketball operations. I mean, Mark Cuban, has he been really good as the head of basketball operations?
Nope.
I would think not.
No,
if you're paying Kyrie Irving the money that they paid him, okay, that is a dumb move. And then, by the way, it's come out that Luka Doncic and him, again, are not getting along.
And that's not going to help either.
No, and this isn't going to help Luka Doncic because now they have a new ownership. It's not Mark Cuban running this team, really, as much as he thinks that he is. So what is it Luka going to do? He's going to say, you know what, trade me. I don't want to be here.
Come on, Knicks, get on it.
The Blackhawks place Corey Perry on waivers after engaging in an unacceptable conduct with a team employee. GM Kyle Davidson said that Perry's actions did not affect any players or any of their families. There was a lot of social media speculations that the incident was with Connor Bedard's mother. But both Davidson and other NHL reporters said that that is not true. Perry signed a 1-year, $4 million deal with the Blackhawks this season. Perry is 38 years old and playing for his fourth team in the last 4 seasons. The Blackhawks also made a trade with the Canucks for Anthony Beauvillier to replace Perry, which, by the way, is a good move by them.
Yep.
I like that move a lot. Anthony Beauvillier has played well since he's been over there with with the Vancouver Canucks. The Blackhawks were involved in a scandal involving sexual assault being done to one of their players, Kyle Beach, over a decade ago. This has led for Joel Cornville and GM Stan Bowman stepping down from the team in 2021. All right. I don't know the full story behind this, and I don't know what employee or who and what the employee he was doing, whatever he was doing with. But this story is crazy. Why is this going on with the Blackhawks? Why does, for the last, I would say, 5 years of craziness with this Blackhawks organization, why are all these things coming out with this organization? Why can't this organization just stay under the situations of the way the NHL works? Okay. The NHL has always been an organization that is trying to grow, trying to bring in new TV deals, obviously more money for the players. I think for the first time, we've seen the first $15 million player in the NHL in Connor McDavid. We're starting to see more money getting paid to some of these players, fantastic talent that we've seen. The speed of the game has changed. Corey Perry has been a successful offensive player in the NHL for many, many years. I mean, I remember him on Anaheim going as deep as he has in the playoffs. He's played, I think, for Dallas.
He played for Dallas and he played for Tampa. I think he made it to like 3 consecutive Stanley Cups, I think, recently.
Yeah, and he's been a big part of those Stanley Cups and the offensive side of the puck. I mean, the guy is a prolific goal scorer. Could be a future Hall of Famer if you look at his numbers.
He was on that path, definitely. This will damage that reputation.
I don't know if it will damage it.
It could. Again, he was kind of that borderline type anyway. I think he's worthy of being a Hall of Famer because he was also a very physical guy too. He hit a lot in addition to scoring all those goals.
100%. And you hear something like this, you hear a story like this. We all know what happened with the Boston Celtics about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago with their coach.
Yep.
Doing what he was doing.
And now he's going to coach the Rockets.
And now he is coaching the Rockets. So, and by the way, the Rockets are playing pretty good basketball. So you sit here and you wonder what's going on with this Chicago Blackhawks organization. Where are they going? I mean, they had arguably one of the best teams, I would say about 15 years ago. You're talking about 3 Stanley Cups in a 7-year span and a dominant team with all the different players, Marion Hoser and Patrick Kane and Towns and all the different guys that we've seen over the years, and Panarin and Alex DeBrincat. They've had so many great young superstars. And now you have one of the best young superstars in the league. He could be better than all of them. And you sit here and you wonder, you brought a guy like Corey Perry in to help the growth of Connor Bedard, and then this goes on, and this something like this happens. What if you're a Connor Bedard? What are you thinking about the organization that you just obviously were drafted by and just signed a big, lucrative rookie contract?
Yeah, generational talent that you really don't want to mess with in the NHL, if anything. Now, granted, a lot of these players that are labeled generational talents, they don't usually leave their teams if something goes wrong like this. We haven't seen that kind of thing yet. We were talking about a couple of weeks ago that Connor McDavid might have wanted out of Edmonton with all the dysfunction they've had this year, but this has been now 6 years of straight dysfunction for Chicago after that great run that they've had. It led to Quenneville obviously having to resign. He ended up taking over for Florida, and then the story broke out, had to resign from there. And their GM obviously is never going to be a GM again either. And
no,
now
now
you bring in this kind of thing with the reputation, whether what kind of staff member it was, it doesn't matter. Like, it still was an action being done. I know the social media was trying to, TMZ was trying to stir up that, oh, it was Connor Bedard's mom. It was a mom strip. That was just ridiculous.
Why was her name involved? Why was Connor Bedard's mother or Connor Bedard involved with this whole Corey Perry thing if it's not true?
Right.
Why would they bring up their superstar player, their franchise player, who, by the way, in 20 games has 10 goals and 7 assists and a -12? I mean, this guy is going to go. I'm telling you how good this kid's going to be. He's not a big guy. He's 5'10", 185 pounds. He's 18 years old, and he already has 10 goals. He's probably going to have 35, 40 goals this year. That's how good of a player that he is. And you're sitting here right now, an 18-year-old who just wants to play hockey, as he's come out and said, and you have this crazy story come out. How would you feel if your mom and your family gets brought up with an organization that's had enough problems over the last couple of years with all the turmoil that's happened, with the organization? This is a crazy story. I do want to know. I hope the story comes out on the whole situation, because everybody's going to sit here and try to believe that they're trying to cover up what really happens.
Yeah.
And Chicago's done that for years.
And Corey Perry has the money to do that too.
100%. And if Corey Perry doesn't get a job, or somebody doesn't want to, bring him in for the rest of the season, which I don't understand why. He has 5 goals and 4 assists in 20 games. He's going to be at least a 30-goal scorer this year again in his career. You would wonder what is this organization and how this organization is going to move forward from this. Again, a second story, which, by the way, the other story with the whole beach thing, we don't even know the whole story. It's still ongoing.
There's definitely more loose ends than just the one coach.
100%. And by the way, we've heard Jonathan Tames knew something. We've heard Patrick Kane knew something, and some of the players knew what was going on. Why didn't any of them do anything? So we don't know the whole backlash and the backstory behind that. I'm sure that when these guys retire, this story, there'll be a book and there'll be probably a movie that comes out about it.
Right.
So it's just sad. This is an organization. This is a highly profiled organization has won many different Stanley Cups. I mean, I think they've won. I think it was like 7.
I think it was 5 total.
Are you sure it's 5?
They have, and
so I thought it was 7.
I think they won a couple in the original 6 era, and then it took them forever to win in the regular era.
Yeah. I guess I think they've won 7 championships.
Okay, but like it took them a while, like after the original 6 to win one. I think they lost a couple in the 90s. They lost to the Penguins.
Eddie Belfour, Chris Chelios, Tony Amonte. I mean, I could go on and on and on with some of those great teams and some of those great players that they have.
And they've had other great players,
Jeremy Roenick,
young prospects that have come in even at the end of this latest run too. When Quenneville was there and Stan Bowman was there, they developed those players. Like you were saying, DeBrincat was one of them. Dominique Kubalik was another one that came up and was really good at the beginning of his career with the Blackhawks. They've had a couple defensemen. They've had trouble finding goalies, but they've had those players, and now they've lost pretty much all of them too. And
it doesn't make sense.
It just doesn't bode well for this kind of team right now that has that reputation. We were talking about the reputation with other sports, like the Blackhawks and hockey will always be able to be labeled as, all right, you're the Chicago Blackhawks, you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're going to still have that reputation whether you deserve it or not in the modern era. Montreal, same kind of thing.
Yep.
They're going to have that for a while, but it still doesn't look good when you have these other guys, these veteran leaders that are supposed to be veteran leaders coming in and doing this.
You don't hear with some of these great teams. Detroit, have you heard anything about this over the years with Detroit? Steve Yzerman took over for the team. Have we heard anything? And Steve Yzerman, I'll tell you the truth. I met Steve Yzerman a couple times at the draft. The guy's not a nice guy, but the guy is a brilliant when it comes to talent. He's brilliant at finding talent. And you saw what Tampa and why Tampa's been so successful. That had a lot to do with Steve Yzerman. And look at what he's done. He's drawn Patrick Kane over there. He made a move for Alex DeBrincat. And this team is up and coming. They're probably going to be a borderline playoff team this year. Expect this team to be a contender for the next 5 to 6 years. They have a bunch of good young talent. They've drafted a bunch of good young talent. So they're up and coming. And you sit here and you look at the Chicago Blackhawks. They bring in a new GM. They bring in a new coach. Has it worked? I mean, seriously, you have to me, a generational talent like Connor Bedard. You're sitting here right now. Right now, Edmonton's dealing with Connor McDavid and how upset he is right now with the team and the way the organization is moving. And you paid him a lot of money, and we've seen Edmonton trade away great talent. I mean, Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky. They didn't want to pay Wayne Gretzky. They didn't want to. He wanted to be the first $1 million player in the NHL. They didn't want to give him that. So they traded him to LA and they gave him the $1 million a year. So, and you gave up on arguably the greatest player of all time. And then probably one of the greatest centers of all time in Mark Messier.
And you've only gotten one Stanley Cup since, and in what was a lockout shortened season.
Yeah. And now you got lucky. You were right about Draisaitl. You were right about obviously Connor McDavid. How could you make a mistake like that? I mean,
then again, they also drafted Nail Yakupov, #1 overall, too.
Yeah, well, people make mistakes, and they have not been lucky when it comes to the goaltending end. But you look at Connor Bedard, and you look at the situation that the Chicago Blackhawks have put himself in over the last couple of years, and where they're moving towards. I mean, I know everybody doesn't want to hear hockey, and they don't care much about hockey, but this is a story that I definitely want to. I definitely want the full story when it does come out, as much as I want to hear what happened with the whole sex scandal. I mean, that is a disgusting story.
And that was like 10 years ago.
And the fact that the coach knew something, the GM knew something, and the players knew something, and nobody helped the kid, and nobody wanted to help the kid because they respected the guy that was doing it. It's despicable. I mean, it really is. These players that obviously there are stories coming out that they knew something. They should not be in the NHL. They should have been suspended. Okay, so it's just disgusting. And this organization is just, to me, as much as you should be excited to see what this guy Connor Bedard could do and help this organization move forward, to know that this story is now becoming a story for the NHL when the NHL is starting to grow with all the new TV deals. Gary Bettman's doing the right thing and the proper way of growing a product that everybody right now is still the fourth best product of the top 4, sports here in America, but it's growing. I mean, the new TV deals that they got with TNT and USA and all, I think it's ESPN has them now.
Yeah, ESPN has one, and they have other better regional packages than we've seen in previous years too. And it's actually fallen apart in other sports.
Well, sports is different now because you can actually buy a league package now. And you, in the 90s and the early 2000s, you couldn't do that. You couldn't get the chance to see players of that magnitude, Nicholas Lindstrom's of the world, and the Brett Hulls of the world, and all the great Mario Lemieux and the Amir Yagers and the Dominic Hasek's. You couldn't get a chance to see that because there were no, packages like that. Now you have the chance to see your favorite player because you're playing fantasy now, and it's different. It's a different world now. So I understand, obviously, that this story has definitely made Chicago and the Blackhawks look bad again. But I definitely want to know the truth behind this. This is keeping this a secret and doing what you done, 10 years ago only makes you look like a false organization. And maybe they need to fire the coach and, not fire the coach, fire the GM.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
make the coach too, because he didn't do anything about it either.
Yeah, I was going to say these guys have not proven themselves reputable enough to even coach and manage a team. Nevertheless, do that because they made a bunch of bad trades too. I think they got good value for DeBrincat, but that was really it. And so far, even that hasn't really worked out. And we talk about player power in the NHL. And
that was another thing. How could you trade away DeBrincat to Ottawa for nothing?
Yeah.
How do you do something like that? Could you imagine DeBrincat and Connor Bedard on a line? Could you imagine how good that offensive line would be?
Yep.
I mean, You're talking about Alex DeBrincat, who's in the prime of his career. He's 27 years old. He had 30-something goals last year. He'll probably, now he's with Detroit. Now he's playing with Patrick Kane. I don't know how many goals he has right now, but I'm sure he's going to score at least 35 goals this year.
Right. And again, you look at the Blackhawks,
and by the way, he's 25.
The Blackhawks, the way they've been able to at least churn out offensive players, you would think there would be enough depth around them too. And they haven't really done that to the same extent as well. And they're losing a lot of reputation. And in an era of sports now where we've seen a lot of player power, mostly in the NBA. We bash all these NBA players for forcing themselves out and whining all the time too. But now we're going to see it in some other sports too, for the top of the top youngest players to be able to do that kind of thing. And Connor Bedard, if it gets uglier, could get to that point. I'm not saying this year, but maybe in 2 or 3 years where he's putting up these phenomenal numbers, even if he's like an 80-point, 90-point rookie year or something like that. And then he has 100, close to 100 next year. I mean, yeah, he's going to deserve his right to say.
Chicago finds a lot of good players. And by the way, Alex DeBrincat right now has 12 goals and 8 assists and 20 points in 20 games. I mean, that's a point a game. You're talking about one of the better offensive players in the league. He's young. He's 25 years old, right winger. And in 470 games, he has 199 goals and 194 assists. That's 393 points and a minus 38. I mean, he's a sensational player and a United States-born player from Michigan. So I could understand why Patrick Kane wants to go play with him. Obviously, his skill and his talent reminds me of a Patrick Kane. So the Chicago Blackhawks have made a lot of mistakes, and parting ways with Alex DeBrincat the way he did is, I think, a dumb move by the organization.
And DeBrincat very easily could have been a New York Islander.
I just want to, I don't get into that with Morello when I was speaking to him over the summertime. I mean, I told him at the event that I was at, go after Alex DeBrincat. Alex DeBrincat is the missing piece to your team, your wing. You put him with, Bo Horvat and Matthew Barzal. You're talking about the best line in hockey. You really are. It's a sensational line. And you decided, hey, you know what? I understand he wanted to play in Detroit. It's his hometown. He played for, he played. I think he played for, if I'm not sure, Michigan, right?
I think somewhere in Michigan. I'm not sure if it was specifically University of Michigan, but yeah, it definitely was somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, he's from Michigan. He wanted to play in his hometown. I understand that, but hey, the Islanders have to overpay as they did for Bo Horvat. Does it work? I mean, they paid him a lot, but did it work for the Islanders? It hasn't really worked for him. Are we? Kevin Green is not coming on.
It looks like Kevin Green's not coming on. Brandon, I'm just trying to figure out. He's trying to find the link.
All right, so get Brandon on the show. I'm looking forward to getting Brandon on. By the way, Brandon is a sensational interview. We've had him on the show before. He tells sensational, crazy stories. And he'll tell you stories that you probably never heard. He played for the Jets, like I said, the Lions, the Raiders. He's been in the NFL for a little bit, and I think he played with Matthew Stafford. So he's got stories.
Yeah, I think it was the 2017 he was drafted. So one of the Stafford's final years with the Lions, and then the Jets. I think it was.
I think he told us of Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure he did. And the Raiders, I think, was the next 2 years after that, 2018, 2019. So with all this Gruden stuff coming up too,
yeah, absolutely. And by the way, John Gruden deserves a second chance. I absolutely love the story. But we're waiting again for Brandon. When Brandon comes on, we'll get him in. But I will say this, with the NFL season so far and what we have seen, I know people sitting back and like I said, the quarterback play has not been as good as it was last year, not even close. But there are some positions that really have stuck out and some players that really have stuck out. Defensively, this has been a defensive year. It's been last year was an all-around offensive year. This year, it's been an all-around defensive year. Like we said with Baltimore, Cleveland, the Jets, all these great defensive teams, and the offense really hasn't shown up. I mean, look at the Jets. I mean, if you remember in October 8th, when the Broncos played the Jets, they lost 31-21 against the Jets. Okay. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Since then, the Broncos have not given up more than 30 points. Just think about that. The Jets, who can't score more than, I would say, a touchdown or less every single game in the last five weeks. And with Zach Wilson, they scored 31 points against a Broncos defense that hasn't given anything close to that up. The most they've given up in the last, I would say 6 weeks is 22 against the Bills. Could you imagine that? I don't know how the NFL is so crazy. It's like it's back and forth every single week. You don't know what another team is going to do. And the same thing with the Dolphins. They gave up 70 points against the Dolphins. 70 points against the Dolphins. And now look at them. They've won 5 games in a row. They're a borderline playoff team right now. If they win out, they're definitely making the playoffs. If they win 4 out of their next 6 games, they're in the playoffs. They're absolutely in the playoffs. So it's crazy. I love what I see what the Broncos are doing. That tells me a lot about Sean Payton, how good of a coach he is. He's starting to figure things out. I think he understands now how to work with Russell Wilson. I love what Aaron Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show about Russell Wilson, the count and hut 1, hut 2, hut 3. He's never seen that before. So things are starting to pan out for the Denver Broncos, and as well as it should. The Denver Broncos have been one of the beasts of the East when it comes to teams over the years. I mean, with Von Miller, even they besides Peyton Manning, could you name the last, besides Peyton Manning, John Elway, could you name the last quarterback that was half decent for that organization? The answer is no.
No, they're not homegrown either. Like they tried Jake Plummer. They tried
drafted
Kyle
Osweiler.
Orton, yeah.
They drafted Osweiler. Has he worked?
Yeah.
Did he work? He actually played pretty well. And obviously Peyton Manning came back from the injury and they won a Super Bowl that year. It wasn't because of Peyton.
No, it wasn't because of Brock either.
No, it was because of the defense.
Right.
And Von Miller and what they did on that
Running
side of
game
the ball.
surprising in the playoffs. So
Yeah, they played well.
Yeah.
But things happen like that. All right. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking to Houston Gamblers, USFL wide receiver and tight end, Brandon Barnes, who played in the NFL with the Lions, the Jets, and the Raiders here on the Sports Loudmouth.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouth.
This has got to be the Killers. I love this song.
I know you love this song. I've played it before many times.
I don't know if Brandon knows this song. This is a hot song, man.
No, I do not know that.
631-672-3108. This is called The Man, okay? And I'm the man. And so are you, Brandon. Remember, you can listen to the Sports Loudmouth every single week, Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m., only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Go to www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows, the local listings, all the great content that we post up every single week. Tune in to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network every single week. And now he's in the dark. He's hanging out. I don't know. Maybe he's in his car. Maybe he's in a dark room. Maybe he's doing what Aaron Rodgers does, you know? In the darkness, we now have, and we are talking to Houston Gamblers, USFL wide receiver and tight end, Brandon Barnes. Brandon, what's up, man?
What's up, man? What's up?
There's a lot of things up, man. We have you, and with everything that's going on with the NFL and so many crazy things going on in sports, to have a great storyteller like you, we are excited to have you on again.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad to be back, man. I'm glad to be back.
I know you were very happy the first time you've been on a show, and now you're on a second time. And when we have you on a second time, we're going to go down and dirty, really crazy stories that you have. You gave us a couple of them the last time we had you on. And again, as everybody knows, you are a great storyteller. So why don't we get into it? I mean, Obviously, the NFL season has been crazy. It really has. But before we get into the NFL season, tell us a little bit about your season with the Houston Gamblers.
Okay, so the way the season started out, kind of started out a little slow, kind of like it did last year, and then during the middle of the season, we kind of heated up. I think we won like 5 straight, and then we kind of ended on a bad note, but we ended up being better than we were last year, so that's pretty good. That's a positive. I'll say that.
There's always a positive. There's a positive and a negative to everything. And hopefully there's more positives. And remember, a positive and negative is a negative. But if there's a positive and a positive, that's a positive. So I don't know what you call it. We'll just say it's a positive season for you. As everybody knows, we are talking to Houston Gamblers, USFL wide receiver and tight end, Brandon Barnes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, any players that we've seen a lot of these CFL, XFL, like all these other leagues carry over, where they end up getting signed by NFL teams, any players that either you played against or you played with this season that you think could make it to an NFL roster? Any names to watch out for?
Justin, dang, I don't know how I forgot his name, but we call him Shorty. So he played with us. He was our receiver, number 17. He's a young kid. Went to Ball State. This kid can go. Justin Hall, that's his name.
Yes, Justin Hall. Yep.
That kid.
I was about to say, this is your player, and you don't remember his name. Come on, Brandon.
It's been so long ago, but he can go. I mean, this kid can just go. Like, he's a good player. I feel like he deserves a shot. Of course, you got Terp from last year. He's doing good. Shout out.
What about you? What about you, bud? What about you?
I'm done playing. I'm actually done.
You're done? You're retired? It's over?
I'm done. I'm done playing.
He's done. Okay, you heard everybody. He's done.
Yeah,
right?
I'm coaching now at my high school.
Oh, okay. Right.
Don't worry. You keep coaching. In 2 years, you could become the new Jets head coach.
Look, I'm trying to get as high as I can get on the coaching pole.
Brandon, I don't want to see you fall apart, so don't take the Jets job, please.
I want to go somewhere where I can thrive. Just put it up.
Oh, you're not going to thrive there. I mean, seriously. And the only thing you're going to be thriving is in Aaron Rodgers' jockstrap, because he's running that team and he's the coach, the GM, whatever you want to call it. He's running the league over there, as we all know.
So he might ask you to play again.
Hey, I might.
Well, I mean, Aaron Rodgers makes everybody look good. So,
right.
So he'd make you look pretty and not good. He'd make you look sexy. All right. Your girlfriend, your wife, even your kids, man, they'll be like, wow, Brandon, you look sexy, bud. You look sexy for the first time. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Brandon. I can throw jokes out there too. As everybody knows, we are talking to Houston Gamblers, USFL wide receiver and tight end, Brandon Barnes. Brandon, you look at the league right now, the NFL, and obviously the game has changed. It's faster. Last year, it was just so offense. It was so highly profile quarterbacks. It was so much more offense last year than there is this year. What do you think has been the change for the NFL and this year, the way the defenses have really changed the way the game is played?
Well, I mean, defenses are starting to adjust, and then on top of that, you're starting to get a lot of defensive-minded coaches. It's kind of flipping. It was trying to go to the offense, but now more head coaches, the newer head coaches are defensive head coaches. So I feel like that's why the defense is starting to pick up a lot more. It's starting to almost kind of look like the traditional NFL, if that makes sense.
So I want to ask about the rule changes. A lot of these random criticisms we've seen with Tom Brady being especially being hypocritical. Oh, leagues become flag football.
His name's not Tom Brady. It's Tom Baby. Okay. All right.
Okay. So about the rules, because I already know we're getting at. Some of these fines are like ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, I mean, are we gonna be able to play football, or are we just gonna, play flag or whatever? I mean, because I feel like that's where the game is kind of heading. It's not. I mean, you can have a legal physical hit, and if it's too hard, you can.
We saw that in college football too. Like even targeting, it's like so stupid now. So.
I mean, man, like they're getting to the point where it's almost like you can't even hit hard no more. And I mean, guys are physically gifted. Like you have to really hit people in order to get them to the ground. Like these guys are not they're not no slouches. Like they're really studs.
Unless you're the quarterback, then you have to do body weights. Keep it off.
Man, quarterbacks, you might as well just lay them on a pillow.
Well, you have the NBA. It's becoming a combat sport. Ask Draymond Green. So
right.
Yeah. He's choking people to death, and he's choking people to death, and the NBA decides, hey, you know what? We're not suspending you. Oh, and we are, but we're only going to give you 5 games. Don't worry, Draymond.
And then he says he has no regrets.
No regrets. I mean, he was just trying to pull him off. He wasn't trying to choke him. What the hell were you trying to do? I mean, you put him in a rear naked chokehold. I mean, it looked like the guy was turning blue. So, I mean, it's the NBA.
Full Nelson.
Yeah, full, whatever the hell you call it. I mean, I do mixed martial arts. It looked like a rear naked chokehold to me. So, full Nelson, you get under the arms. He put him in like a chokehold. He was putting him to sleep. We are talking to Houston Gamblers, USFL, wide receiver and tight end, Brandon Barnes. And by the way, he played for the Lions, the Jets, and the Raiders. So, Brandon, you look at the Jets right now, and the Jets had Aaron Rodgers. He runs on the field with an American flag, the highest viewed Monday Night Football game. He plays 4 snaps. He tears his Achilles. And now the Jets have been an absolute debacle of an organization and a team. And now all of a sudden you're hearing that Aaron Rodgers is making a comeback. And for the first time, anybody that's had an Achilles injury like that, coming back possibly this season. Do you think this is a false story, or just trying to create some kind of story for the New York Jets to hide all the craziness that's happened this season with Zach Wilson?
To be honest, from the beginning, I kind of thought the Jets was like a quarterback away from being, a contender, and I still think that. But this Achilles thing, I just, to be honest, like I've had injuries, and it's almost unbelievable. Like I hope he's back, but it's just, I don't know if he tore it. If he's, like, just being honest, like I've never seen anybody recover from a torn Achilles that fast.
So are you saying there's some kind of conspiracy theories involved?
He's superhuman. Come on, he's Superman. I mean,
he has a really good doctor. He hit rehab extremely hard. Or
I've heard, Brandon, I've heard stories that he has been doing so many different things rehab wise, and he ordered a $2 million machine to his house so he could sit in there and heal like Terrell Owens did. I mean, did anybody believe that Terrell Owens was going to play in the Super Bowl? I mean, the guy broke his leg.
Yeah.
I mean, and he had over 100 yards. He had a touchdown in the game.
Yeah.
Almost helped the Eagles win a Super Bowl. So against the Patriots. So if you remember that story. So Aaron Rodgers is doing the same thing. I think Aaron Rodgers is dedicated. I think he has something to prove. He wanted to prove, and I do believe this. I think the reason why he came back and he wanted to be with the Jets, and he wanted to go to an organization because he wanted to prove that he could win a championship with an organization that hasn't won a championship in over 50 years. And if he does that, he becomes a god. And that's with the NFL. And you could say whatever you want about Tom Brady. Tom Brady knows that he's going to be looked at as a god. He's the GOAT. He's this because he won 7 Super Bowls, and he's the great. In anybody's view, because he's won 7 Super Bowls, when they forget it's a team game, because he won 7 Super Bowls, he's the greatest quarterback, the greatest player to ever play the game, which I think is false. That's just my opinion. And Aaron Rodgers and what he's done in the league, because he hasn't won 2 Super Bowls, nobody's going to compare him to Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or any of those quarterbacks that are ahead of him, because he hasn't done it twice. So you look at Aaron Rodgers right now, and to me, Brandon, you know the game of football. Do you think that Aaron Rodgers has a lot more to give when it comes to the Jets, and he has 2 more years left on his contract? Do you still think he can play at a high level?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think the reason why he's so hungry to come back, honestly, because he has Garrett Wilson. I mean, he has a better supporting cast than he did those last couple of years in Green Bay, without Devontae Adams, of course. But, I mean, I feel like if he's healthy, I feel like they're a contender. But if he's not healthy, I don't think he need to go out there. That's my take on it.
Well, you did hear that Devontae Adams could have the Jets could have an opportunity to land Devontae Adams. There was a story that just came out last week that the Jets were trying to make a move for Davante Adams at the trade deadline. It didn't work out because Vegas decided to part ways with their coach and their GM instead of some of their players, which made no sense. And they still have Davante Adams here. There are stories coming out that the Jets are going to go heavily after Davante Adams in the offseason. What do you think the team could be next year if you have Davante Adams on one side and Garrett Wilson on the other?
Trouble. That's all I'm gonna say. Trouble. If they got Aaron Rodgers, trouble. Like they contender. Like with that, because him and Davante Adams, and I've seen it in person. Like, I've seen it live. Like they got a different type of relationship. Like their connection is insane. It's almost like they read each other's mind. Like it's ridiculous. You can't stop it.
So I want to ask about one of the other teams you play for, the Detroit Lions, having a very nice season this year. 8-3 right now. They had a tough loss on Thanksgiving, but still played very well throughout the season besides that. And it finally looks like they have an actual sense of direction. What are your thoughts with the Lions this year?
My thoughts with the Lions, like I feel like the Lions are like that one team that kind of pretty much they're pretty much doing what they're supposed to do as far as like turning the organization around. I think the coaches there, I think they actually like their coaches, and that plays a huge part. And I feel like they're definitely headed in the right direction. I feel like I don't know if they're gonna be a contender this year, but I feel like they're gonna be a playoff team. They're gonna make a little run, but next year they'll be a real contender.
As everybody knows, we are talking to Houston Gamblers. Well, he's no longer on the Houston Gamblers. He's retired. He's coaching right now his high school team, but he did play for the Gamblers, USFL wide receiver and tight end Brandon Barnes. You know, Brandon, it's so funny. I sit here today, and I question some of the things that I've seen so far in the NFL this year, and I'm just my head is just spinning. And Frank Wright, it doesn't make any sense. I understand why Carolina hired him and why they took him on, because he can help, develop a quarterback like Bryce Young. It hasn't worked out. Now there's stories coming out that he wanted CJ Stroud. He didn't even want Bryce Young, and they fire him after 11 games. What are your thoughts with the Carolina Panthers? Do you think the Carolina Panthers have just lost it and they're just a dumb organization that's going to screw up this young kid?
I don't think they can turn it around. They just got to get some pieces to help them, honestly. Because, Bryce Young, he's different. Like, everybody knows Bryce Young is different. Even though I love CJ Stroud and I love what he's doing, he's out there playing with my former college teammate, Titus Howard. And, I feel like Bryce Young just needs some weapons around him. If he has some weapons around him, he'll be fine. I don't think the organization is horrible. I just think they just got to get the pieces. They don't have the pieces right now.
So I want to ask about, you're talking about the transition of offense in the NFL earlier. One of the things that's been prevalent the last two draft classes have been the tight ends, and obviously you've been transitioning into playing tight end a little bit as well.
Playing traditional tight end.
Yes.
He was. Past tense.
Yes.
He's coaching now.
Fair enough.
Help him out here.
He is coaching now.
By the way, we have another player that's hanging out in his car while he's doing an interview. So thank you, Brandon. You have done it again. You're the fifth player that's done, an ex-player that's done an interview in his car.
Let's not forget one of our analysts too from the Brooklyn Nets that also did it in an Uber.
That's true, an Uber. Yeah. That was good. I like that interview.
So I just want to ask, do you think it maybe could transition more into the tight end, especially now with the receiver contracts also being as big as they are?
Yeah, because there's a lot of young, great tight ends. You got the guy that just signed with Buffalo, the rookie from Buffalo. I like him, Kincaid.
Yeah.
He has a few drops here and there, but he's a rookie. He's pretty good though. The guy that came from Notre Dame, the tight end, I forgot what he plays for. Yeah, I was just watching him. He's doing pretty good. Then you got guys like Cole Kmet coming out of nowhere, playing with the Bears. He's doing pretty good.
How about
I feel like the tight ends, they're making a little transition back into the game a lot more now.
Well, maybe that's a good opportunity for you to get another job. Why are you retiring? Seriously.
Body hurts. I just feel like I feel like my calling has always been coaching. So I just
Brandon, how old your body hurts?
You said what?
How old are you, buddy?
29. So this is what
29?
happened.
Are you kidding
So
me?
I have a
I'm
story.
41.
So I broke both hands.
Okay.
I broke a hand last season, and then I broke one this year. Both hands, the opposite hands. And I was just like, after that, I was just like, you know what? And I played with them broke. And I was just like, yeah, it's about over with for me.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I broke both my wrists, boxing. I'm a walking time bomb. I had neck surgery. I've had hip surgery. Brandon, cry me a river, buddy. Okay, cry me a river. But I do love you, by the way, man. I love having fun with you. The last time you were on the show, we had a lot of fun. But you look at, you were mentioning certain tight ends. There's a tight end right now in the NFL that's not only the best tight end in football, he's now dating Taylor Swift. He's a Swiftie. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts to the whole Taylor Swift dating thing? How the NFL has blown it out of proportion. It's been like the headliner. Nobody gives a crap about Patrick Mahomes. Nobody cares about the Kansas City Chiefs. All they care about is Taylor Swift at a game. What do you think about this?
I mean, that's like the equivalent of me dating
Janet Jackson.
Beyonce. No, Beyonce.
Okay.
So like, I mean, yeah, they're gonna talk about it. I mean, she's made a name for herself. So I mean, and then it's like a super hot couple because I mean, Travis Kelce, he's been doing this thing. He's one of the best players in the NFL. So I mean, it's a hot commodity. I can't lie. So that's why they're getting so much attention.
I think you need to jump on the bandwagon. Okay, you need to be
I'm on it.
I listen. You were on it. I know you are. But
I'm on the bandwagon.
Well, yeah. You know what? Then you got to reach out to Taylor and say that you want to be a Swiftie, man. You wear it. I think you'd be interesting. Yeah, you put on a Taylor Swift wig. I mean.
Oh no, I'm not putting on the wig.
Brandon had long enough hair. We saw last time when he was on our show. Can't really see it now, but he had long enough hair. He doesn't need a wig.
What? By the way, Brandon, why are you hiding in your car, man? Are you hiding from somebody?
Oh no, I'm just wait. Like I was pretty much killing time doing this interview because I got some folks inside. I was playing Madden and stuff.
Oh, he's playing Madden. Who usually play on Madden?
I was playing with one of my co-worker coaches / yeah, one of those guys.
You do a lot of talking, I'm sure. You probably you dumb, I'm kicking your ass or something. I don't want to say it on national radio.
No, I don't talk no smack.
Oh, really? You don't talk? I do.
No, not really. Because I don't have the game. I just know how to play it, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't have the game either, and I know how to play it. I know how to play other things too. I know how to play a fiddle. I know how to play.
I play drums too.
Oh,
nice.
So do I. So there you go. We have something in common. I did it for 10 years.
You gonna start up a band, Brandon?
Oh my God! Could you imagine us try to play the drums together and try to be insane?
You never know, man. We might be something.
We'll call ourselves the Drumbo Line.
Nice.
The Drumbo Line with Brandon Barnes and Errol Marks.
Be the loudmouths.
Well, we instead of the loud mouth, we'll be called the loud mouths. I mean, there you go.
Except instead of speaking, you're drumming.
We're drumming. I really don't want to give crazy names because I don't want people to be turned off. So I can add some crazy names. We were talking to Houston Gamblers USFL wide receiver and tight end Brandon Barnes, who's now a high school coach, and he's doing well, and hopefully soon will be in the NFL coaching the New York Jets.
So I want to ask about another guy that we used to be with the Raiders organization, John Gruden, when he was in the rumors yesterday.
Love him.
That Indiana might be able to take him on as a head coach. So from your perspective, what was John Gruden like as a head coach? And do you think it will work working with college kids if he takes that job?
Man, that'll be interesting. I don't want to say it won't work because he definitely does take control of the locker room. I think his terminology might confuse some of them kids, though. Can't lie.
Oh, you're saying Spider 2 Y banana won't translate to a bunch of 18-year-old freshmen?
Right, his plays be so long.
Spider 2 banana. The only thing I'd be thinking is, could I have some Kellogg's?
I don't know. You better not create a Spider 2 Y banana sign. Otherwise, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan might steal it.
Oh, Brandon. Oh, Brandon. Well, listen, I want you to get back to your game. Hopefully you're winning. Tell the coaches over there that, anytime they want to, come on the show and we can record, an interview while you're playing a game. I guarantee you're talking smack. You're lying to us. You're lying to us. You're just trying to
I promise you. I promise you I'm not.
Are you a talker on the field? Do you throw people under the bus? Come on, let's hear it.
If somebody talks to me, I'm gonna talk back.
Oh, what's the craziest thing you've
if
heard?
not, I'm pretty cool on the field actually.
What is the craziest thing you've heard on the field, and who was saying it to you?
So when I was in college, some dude, I was talking to a girl that went to the college that I was playing against, and like a dude basically was like, "Yeah, that's why I did your girlfriend or whatever." I'm just like, she's not even my girlfriend, but dang, I guess y'all keeping up with me that much.
I probably would do a lot of dirty other. I would probably say a lot of dirty other things, but that's just me. I'm a little crazier than you, Brandon. So I do like to throw people a bone. I do. Matter of fact, I'm not going to be searching for a bone or digging up a bone. So I'll do other bones.
Maybe you could throw a bone.
I'll do other boning. That's.
Maybe you could throw a bone to Rex Ryan. Maybe he'll eat it like he ate dog food.
Anyways, Brandon, we really appreciate the time. I know you're busy and just giving us the time the way you have over the last couple of years. And we love you. And we would love to get you on the show again, but keep up the good
man,
work.
Get me as a coach, man. Get me as a coach this time.
Why don't you invite us and we'll come and interview some of your players and we'll hang out. We've been invited to a couple places. We still haven't gone to those schools, but there was a couple of schools that have invited us to come and interview. So maybe if you give us some incentives, we will come over there and have a little fun.
Maybe we'll take on a drum performance.
Yeah. We can do our loudmouth halftime performance.
Let's do it. I'm going to tell you this. Don't please don't show me off. Okay, do not. You show me up or show me off, and maybe you could show me off, but just don't show me up. But I haven't drummed in a while, but I'm a really good drummer. I did so many covers and stuff like that, and I'm a DJ, so I've been doing it for years. So there you go.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'll mix a couple of, I'll spin a little bit, and then I'll have you play the drums on top of my some of my music. What do you think about that?
Okay, hey, we can do it.
All right, let's do it. All right, there we go. We've got ourselves a halftime show, ladies and gentlemen, with me, the E-Man, the sports loudmouth, and Brandon Barnes.
And so now all you have to do is whatever that performance comes in, now you just have to send it to Tom Bahali.
Screw that. We'll bring Taylor Swift with us.
I don't know. Brandon Barnes said he wanted Beyonce.
Well, there you go. I mean, I don't know. If Beyonce was there and she was shaking it behind, I wouldn't be able to control myself. So there you go. And neither would you, so don't lie.
Yeah, none of us would, honestly.
Jay-Z would. See, I made him cough. Anyways, we really appreciate the time, Brandon, and keep up the good work, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right. Appreciate you for having me, man.
Absolutely. Brandon Barnes, former tight end for the Houston Gamblers and the Lions and the Jets and the Raiders. Fantastic interview. As always, good personality, and he plays the drums, ladies and gentlemen, and he's going back to play. Well, he's hiding in his car from his coaches because they're playing Madden. So
yes, maybe he has to start drumming in the car. Brandon, gonna start drumming in your car?
Listen,
No drums.
Yeah,
no drums in the car.
Yeah, you get drum pads. You set up
in the gated community.
I'm in a gated community, he says. Oh, Brandon Barnes, guys. Fantastic. All right. Let's get into it, Speedy. Are we going to go over last week's games?
We could very much do that.
We could do that. I mean, Brandon is going home, or he is home. He's outside of his house. He's getting ready to play some Madden. All right, so let's do it, Speedy.
All right, we'll start with the Thanksgiving slate. The Packers upsetting the Lions, maybe saving their season in a way, especially with the way the NFC has gone. Like we were talking about earlier with Jordan Love, he probably had his best game of the season in terms of...
Boy, did he.
Yeah, in terms of a concept standpoint, making a lot of difficult throws. And Christian Watson, like we were saying, has not gotten it going all season, and he finally had his best game of the season as well. Lions secondary, ever since that Ravens game, starting to show a little bit of leaks, and that could hurt them in the playoffs, where I thought they were one of the more complete teams in the league, but not looking that way recently.
Oh, you were saying Jordan Love had a really good game, 22 for 32, 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. A.J. Dillon got involved, 14 carries, 43 yards. And Jordan Love ran the ball for the first time all season long. We got a chance to see his legs, which is something that we definitely need to see more of. 3 carries for 39 yards. I think they have to get Christian Watson more involved. When they do, 5 receptions, 94 yards, and 1 touchdown, they're going to win. Sensational game. And the Lions, I will say this. Jared Goff still had a very good game. 29 for 44, 332 yards, 2 touchdowns. Everybody keeps talking about all the other quarterbacks. He's definitely an MVP candidate, top 5.
Yeah.
He's had a really good season. David Montgomery comes back, 15 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown. They have to keep giving him the ball. I know everybody keeps liking Gibbs and like what he's done the last couple of weeks. David Montgomery could be the changer, the game changer that they needed. They made the move. It made no sense why Chicago didn't bring him back, and it's costing them. I love St. Brown, 9 receptions, 95 yards, and Raymond, 5 receptions for 90 yards. They're getting offense all different sides of the ball. And by the way, Jamison Williams, is starting to play pretty good football as well. So, and Sam Laporta, my guy, 5 receptions, 47 yards, 1 touchdown. Loving it. But the Green Bay Packers win. Yep.
Well, we'll go to the blowout quickly of the MVP candidate, Dak Prescott, to emphasize to Jeff, even though he'll never try to actually
admit it.
He'll never give him that much credit.
That's a shame.
Just because he's Dak Prescott. And I'm not a Cowboys fan either, but you have to respect.
Neither am I.
You have to respect what he's done this year, and he showed it again in this game. So, CeeDee Lamb was shut down for much of the first half too, but it got it going in the second half. And Brandon Cooks finally coming into his own. That's a big weapon for Dallas to be needed because he's been an experienced playoff guy in the past too. So if Dallas wants to overcome their hope and actually make an NFC Championship game in the 21st century, they're going to need somebody like that.
This is what the Cowboys did. They stopped Brian Robinson. You stop Brian Robinson, you stop Washington's offense. Sam Howell, I mean, fantasy-wise, 28 for 44, 300 yards, and 1 interception, no touchdowns. He still gave you, if you have him, he gave you 30 points. But it's not something that you expected. I thought Sam Howell was going to have a better game than that. The thing that really stood out to me is Curtis Samuel actually had a good game, 9 receptions, 100 yards. Why haven't they used him a lot this year? That made no sense. Dak Prescott, 22 for 32, 331 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That really sticks out. Tony Pollard had one of his better games this year, 13 carries, 79 yards, and 1 touchdown, 6.08 in average every time he touched the ball, which is interesting. Brandon Cooks had his best game, 4 receptions, 72 yards, and 1 touchdown, and a touchdown for CeeDee Lamb. And that, ladies and gentlemen, gave them the 45 points and knocks off the crappy Commanders.
All right, the 49ers knocking off the Seahawks in Seattle, 31.
That crappy Commanders will still beat the Jets, by the way.
Well, maybe, but
true.
Battle of crappy on crappy. But the 49ers beating the Seahawks 31-13. Seattle continues to struggle defensively against heavy motion offenses. It really seemed like they had no adjustment whatsoever to either Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel, who, by the way, was just coming off injury, too. And he had his best game of the season in terms of consistency basis. 9 targets, 7 catches for 79 yards. And Seattle, who plays a lot of zone, and when they do play man, plays a lot of physical man, just have not been able to adjust to this team. And offensively, they're starting to get a lot more worrisome. Geno Smith the last couple of weeks has been very turnover prone, and it's a bit of a concern for the Seahawks now, where they're not getting that same level of production from their wide receivers either. So a little bit of rocky road. They might still make the playoffs, but I thought there might have been more contenders than that. They're not.
Here's a concern. 21 for 30, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception for Brock Purdy. It wasn't one of those games that really stood out. He made the throws when he needed to. What really stood out in the game is Christian McCaffrey. Again, 19 carries, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 yards a carry. I mean, the guy has been beastly. Everybody keeps talking about MVP. Why isn't Christian McCaffrey on the top of the list? He's been as good as anybody.
John Ferris was saying that.
Yeah, and Deebo Samuel back, in this lineup over the last 2 weeks. 7 receptions, 79 yards. Brandon Ayuk should have been playing better. I know he had a touchdown, but 2 receptions for 50 yards is not enough. They need to use Brandon Ayuk more this year. This is a contract year for him. He's going to be expecting a lot of money in the offseason. I don't know if the 49ers are going to be able to give it to him. I think he's a guy that the Giants should look at. In the offseason.
100%. I would love that.
Geno Smith, 18 for 27, 180 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. He did not look good. And here's the thing. What really hurt them is the running back position. Walker was not in the lineup. It definitely affected their offense. And I will say this, Smith Njigba has been much better in the last couple of weeks than I expected. He's starting to pick up his game, 2 receptions, 41 yards. DK Metcalf, I don't think he's 100% healthy. I think the ribs are still bothering him, and you can see it in his numbers. He's killing me right now in my fantasy league.
And you have Walker, too, which doesn't help.
Yeah, 3 receptions for 32 yards. Tyler Lockett hasn't looked good the last couple of weeks. 3 receptions. Well, last week he did, but a couple of weeks after that, before that, he wasn't really that good. 3 receptions for 30 yards. They're not getting enough. And Noah Fant, I don't know what's going on with him the last couple of weeks. He's absolutely disappeared in the offense. So you're right. I don't think the Seattle Seahawks right now, on paper, is a playoff team.
Yeah, doesn't look that way. Speaking of not being a playoff team, the New York Jets creating new ways to make themselves the laughing stock of the league.
No, thank you.
Now they allow a 99-yard Hail Mary return for a touchdown against the Miami Dolphins. Javon Holland.
Could I say it's a gift?
Yeah, a gift indeed. And the Jets are trying to make new ways to make themselves the laughing stock of the league. The Hail Mary, the Fail Mary, whatever you want to call it, just changing that game. They were playing pretty well defensively outside of that one Tyreek Hill touchdown before that. Tua did not have a great game besides the Tyreek Hill touchdown. And the running game for the Dolphins got it going in the second half. It saved them in a way in the third quarter, but the Jets just being the Jets and stinking offensively.
Here's the reason why the Jets stink. Tim Boyle, 27 for 38, 179 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. Are you kidding me? You're not going to win like that when you throw more interceptions than touchdowns. Breece Hall, 7 carries for 25 yards. This is one of the better running backs in the league. He's getting 7 carries. Nathaniel Hackett, I don't care what Aaron Rodgers says, he has been horrible this year at the play calling. You have one of the more efficient offensive running backs in the league, and you can't use them. Then you have Garrett Wilson, 7 receptions, 44 yards, and a touchdown. That's not going to – Tyler Conklin, 4 receptions, 33. It's not enough. And the Dolphins, offensively, they were not good. That's the crazy thing. The Jets really shut them down. Now, obviously, Jalen Waddle had 8 receptions, 114 yards. And obviously Tyreek Hill, 9 receptions, 102 yards and a touchdown. But they did that all at the end of the game.
And Hills was all in like one play.
When the Jets were tired. And this has been going on the last couple of weeks. They're on too long. And again, the Jets can't stop the run. You have a guy like Raheem Mostert who had 20 carries, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. How do you give a running back this much room when you're a top defense in the league? It's been a big problem. They added Jefferson. They lost Woods for the season. It definitely affected the run stopping early in the season. So the Jets are done. They're absolutely done.
Speaking of done, the Bengals, after the first game losing Joe Burrow, they lose 16-10 against the Steelers. The defense definitely holding their own. So it's proving they have a lot of talent, but also proves that the Steelers offense, even with a new coordinator, still has to find their ways.
I should have picked them.
Some good things, though, you have to be impressed with.
Sick.
Pat Frymuth, the tight end, returned after he was out for about 6 games, had 120 yards in that game. Najee Harris probably had one of the most efficient games of the season. He's always been a good volume guy, good receiving guy at certain points, but this was a good game for him to get efficiency-wise, 6.6 yards a carry. Kenny Pickett was fine, still leaves a little to be desired.
I'll say this. The Bengals are done. They're not winning any more games. They're going to get a high draft pick. They'll probably get one of those star wide receivers because they're going to lose one in Higgins. They'll get Neighbor or one of these guys. They're going to fall to them, and they're going to have an efficient, wide receiving core again for the next 5 years with Jamar Chase and whoever they bring in. It makes me sick to my stomach. And then you get Joe Burrow back next year and you win a Super Bowl. Doesn't make any sense. But the good teams find a way to win, and the bad teams find a way to lose, a.k.a. the Jets. So there's really nothing more to say. I mean, Pittsburgh's defense is sensational. T.J. Watt is a beast. Their quarterback play is horrible. They can't really – I mean, I will say this, and I like what I see with Pittsburgh when it comes to that 1-2 punch at the running back position. I like it. Pittsburgh's going to have a very big decision in the offseason. Do they believe in Najee Harris? Maybe you move him 15 carries, 99 yards, or you keep a guy like Jalen Warren who has shown you that he could be a star running back in this league. And they've always found good running backs and good wide receivers. They've always been a team that's found that. So maybe they found a gem in Warren.
I think he's like top 5 in scrimmage yards per play among running backs.
I think teams are going to be lining up for him in the offseason. You're not going to have to give up a first round or a second round. You probably can get him for a third or fourth. And he's a good player, man.
Right.
I mean, maybe if the Giants lose Saquon Barkley. Look, I'm helping you Giants. I'm giving the Giants an invasion here. I'm helping you guys.
Oh, believe me, if Ayuk
should
became
be
a
the
Giant,
GM.
I would love that.
I should be the
heartbeats.
GM. I should be the GM.
I was willing to trade a draft pick for him last year. I would
me help
definitely
him.
love if Ayuk came over there.
Fire Joe Shane and just hire the Big E. You know, I'll be the loudmouth. I'll be the guy. Goodell hates me anyway, so it'd be perfect. He'd hate me. I'd tell everybody to go F themselves, and I get the guys that you guys need. I mean, I'm a Jet fan, so it'll hurt my feelings if I help you guys win a Super Bowl. But hey, you know, I become the greatest. You give me the GM job with the Jets, I'll be the next Douglas, and you can tell me to go fly a kite, and I win the first Super Bowl in 54 years. It'll be longer than that. 58 years. So there you go.
Speaking of trying to win a Super Bowl, two teams that never even appeared in a Super Bowl, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans. The Jags edged that one out. The Texans had a missed field goal right at the end of the game. Tough break for him. It was a 59-yard kick, and he ended up hitting right off the crossbar. But two great quarterback performances. Trevor Lawrence had one of his best savings this season, 364 yards, spread the ball around.
I just licked my mic, by the way. I don't know why I did that.
Thank you for announcing that to the world. Everyone on the
Very
audio
tasty.
feed that did not need to hear that.
Very tasty. All right, well, it's a long-lasting spit on my mic.
All right, thank you. That is way too much information. But
Yeah, it's metal on tongue, man. It's disgusting.
yes, Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk.
Have you ever
both-
sucked a penny before? You ever put a penny in your mouth?
Not deliberately.
Have you tried it?
No.
All right, I'm just asking. I mean, have you ever sniffed a dollar bill?
Yes.
What does it smell like?
Like pretty bland paper.
It smells like ass. It's a dollar bill. How many people put their hands on a dollar bill?
Everybody that has to pay money in the world.
Okay, so it smells like ass.
Congratulations.
Just telling you the truth.
Yeah, going back to Trevor Lawrence and spreading the ball around really nicely. He had 5 different
Just trying
players
to help you here.
that had six or more targets in this game. Even a young tight end in Luke Farrell, a young guy from Ohio State that played very well in this game, in addition to Evan Ingram. Houston, like you were saying, CJ Stroud's having a phenomenal year. He had a great game in this one. No turnovers in this one after having a bunch in the last 2 games. And with a lot of injuries, too, they were still able to make it work, too. Hanging tough, just not enough on defense.
Well, I will say this. CJ Stroud, he does it with his legs. 6 carries, 47 yards and a touchdown, 7.83 in average, which is a pretty good number. And then he does it with his arm. 26 for 36, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not enough. They didn't get enough offense from most of their wide receivers. Dell didn't have a good game. He did have a touchdown, but 5 receptions for 50 yards is not enough. They have to get more offense from all the different wide receivers. Robert Woods, who's a veteran guy, I would have thought that they were going to use him more in this offense, but Nico Collins has been sensational all season. I think he's a Pro Bowl player. 7 receptions, 104 yards. Him and Dell are Pro Bowl players this year. They've been sensational, really stuck out. Jacksonville, listen, we all know what Jacksonville is. We all know what Trevor Lawrence is when he plays well. 23 for 38, 364 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. His numbers don't stand out because he only had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. So it really didn't show out. But here's the problem. Travis Etienne, 20 carries for 56 yards, 2.8 a carry is not enough. I don't know what's going on with him. He's killing me in my fantasy league. This guy's got to wake up. They have to wake him up. It's not enough when you're arguably your best offensive option has been your worst offensive option. I love Christian Kirk. I've been very impressed with him. I didn't understand the contract. Well, now I do. 4 receptions, 89 yards, and then Calvin Ridley, 5 receptions, 89 yards, and 1 touchdown. They spread the offense out, and that's why they won, and good defense at the end of the game.
Another wide receiver that could be getting a payday is with the Indianapolis Colts, Michael Pittman having a big game, and they beat the Buccaneers 27-20. Another one that could be a giant as well. I think the
Trying
Colts,
to help you here.
I tried the Colts with the success they've had, maybe
Give you everybody.
a little less
I don't know if that'll help you
of a
win.
chance that he's going to want to be out of there, but they had a big game in this one. He's had a pretty consistent season, too. 13 targets, 10 catches, 107. Jonathan Taylor, a nice game as well against a good run defense in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this Colts
Show
defense,
him the money.
being very underrated in recent weeks as well, too. Even losing Darius Leonard. Zaire Franklin's been a very good young linebacker for them. They've had a couple good young safeties. And this coaching staff knew all at once. It's done a very good job with this team.
Well, all I could say is you can't bake a Mayfield, all right? And that's for damn sure. 20 for 30, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's not going to get it done. We got a chance to see a little bit of Kyle Trask. 0 for 1. He stinks. And then Rashad White, he's had a good season. 15 carries, 100 yards. That's something to stand out. Baker had 3 carries for 14 yards. Mike Evans is going to get a lot of money in the offseason. He is going to make a lot of money. Another player the Giants could be interested in. Okay, 6 receptions, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't know what's going on with Chris Godwin this year. He hasn't had a really good season. I'm very surprised. I expected a bigger season. I thought Mike Evans was going to take a step back.
Me too.
He's been sensational, and Chris Godwin's been crap. So I don't know what's going on, but congratulations to the Colts. They're still in it in second place right now in the division.
Speaking of crap, the Saints offense continues to be crap.
Well,
as they followed the Atlanta Falcons 24-15. Chris Olave had a great game, but that was really it. Derek Carr had an interception. He had 304 yards. I guess he wasn't as bad, but Alvin Kamara was shut down. Just 69 yards in this game, and probably his worst or his second worst game since coming back from his suspension. So Atlanta, I mean, there's still a lot of questions with their offense, with their passing game especially. Desmond Ridder continues to have issues with red zone interceptions, but they got Bijan going, which is a big sign for them. That's running game back to the form they had in the beginning of the season, which they're going to need if they want to win this division, because their passing game is nothing.
They need to use Alvin Kamara more. What is going on with the Saints? It's not enough. He should be seeing the ball in every single play because he's the only offensive weapon besides Olave. I give Olave a lot of credit. He's had a pretty good season. But besides him, I mean, Taysom Hill, 2 catches for 55 yards. Taysom Hill. I mean, he's taking shots at Zach Wilson. He's taking shots at everybody. Oh, I could play quarterback. Meanwhile, you're not the quarterback of this team. Derek Carr is 24 for 38, 304 yards, and 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. It's not going to do it for me. The Falcons showed up this week. Last week, Desmond Ridder stinks, 13 for 21, 168 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. They're going to be looking for a quarterback in the offseason. But Bijan Robinson, fantastic talent, 16 carries, 91 yards, 1 touchdown. Drake London's finally waking up, and Kyle Pitts looks like he's a turd that's flushed down the toilet.
Yeah, maybe they could trade him to the Giants, so who knows?
Yeah, he's a big turd. I mean, that's a 6'6", 230-pound, 240-pound tight end who, is sinking down like a flush.
Yeah.
Like a flush.
Speaking of turd.
Like turd flush.
Yeah, speaking of turd, this game was definitely a turd. The Giants and the Patriots. Giants win this game 10-7.
Dable won a game?
Yeah, they won a game. Jalen Hyatt was a nice bright spot. He had some very nice catches on the sideline.
Well, he didn't fumble the ball.
He did not drop the ball. He did not fumble the ball. And Tommy DeVito, I guess the somewhat legend grows on a little bit. But
I will say this. A lot of ex-Giants like to drop the ball. I got the human joystick. I mean, the only joystick he's going to be using is the one in his pants.
I'm surprised the Giants didn't trade Darius Slayton to the Chiefs at the trade deadline at that rate.
Hey, listen, maybe he's a Swiftie. I mean, he's hanging out with the Swift.
Yeah, who knows? But the Patriots
Let's
finally
just keep him away from Swift.
Yeah, the Patriots finally bench Mac Jones, though. Bailey Zappi comes into the game and doesn't do much better. 54 yards and an interception.
I'll tell you, Tommy DeVito, not the greatest numbers, but he is showing up in every game, getting beaten because it's all getting a big beaten because the offensive line stinks. Yeah. But 17 for 25, 191 yards, 1 touchdown. Hey, that's enough. And by the way, better numbers than Zach Wilson ever had this year. Saquon Barkley, 12 carries, 46 yards. Not enough. They need to use him more. But like you said, Jalen Hyatt had a good game. There's nothing good to say about this Patriots team except, this could be a farewell tour from Billy the Bell.
Yep.
So
he's going to end his
so we will bell the chick.
Yep.
Or maybe he'll be having a little fun with Robert Kraft and his chick.
Oh boy. Yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll have some kind of
rub one out.
One more scandal greatness for Robert Kraft.
Rub-a-dub-dub, and hopefully he doesn't sit in the tub.
Well, now to the team that Robert Kraft wants to hire a coach. Right?
So you want Robert Kraft to sit in your tub?
No.
I don't know. I was talking about tubs.
All right, ask Bill Belichick. Maybe he wants that.
I don't know. Maybe
Bill Belichick will just give you a 2-word answer, like maybe, but no, or something
or
like that.
Maybe you just say, yeah, I love it.
Water is wet. That would be the classic Bill Belichick answer.
Tub? Yeah.
Yeah, water is wet. I can take a shower. Yeah, that would be
too many words. That wouldn't work.
No, you're right. Yeah, water is wet.
It wouldn't work.
Simple as that. Yeah. So, speaking of that, the Tennessee Titans defeating the Carolina Panthers a final of 17-10. Both these rookie quarterbacks were okay, but nothing special in this game. We were talking about Bryce Young earlier, just not having much to throw to.
And they fire our friend Frank.
And they fire Frank Reich. The running game does not help either because Miles Sanders is a product of the Eagles' offensive line that averages 1.9 yards a carry when he's on another team. And Chuba Hubbard is not much better. Derrick Henry had a nice game, though, 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. Didn't have to do much in the second half, but the defense able to do the rest for the Titans. That was really it.
Derrick Henry. That's it. It was a Derrick Henry game, and everybody didn't show up. The only person that showed up was Derrick Henry and the Titans defense. Everything else was garbage. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, the LA Rams
garbage.
knocking off the Arizona Cardinals.
By the way, the Titans are garbage too. 4-7. Yeah. They stink too.
The LA Rams knock you off the Arizona Cardinals 37-14. Kyron Williams, what a return from him from injury. 16 carries, 143 yards in that game for him. And the Rams have been
Speedy loves him.
Seeking that running game for a while for a team that's been very pass happy since Todd Gurley has been gone for a while. And they could be a sneaky playoff team, maybe making it because they have the tiebreaker on the Seahawks. They swept them for the season. Maybe the Rams knock out the Seahawks at this rate. Who knows?
Yeah, well, maybe he's, he's like you. He snatched chickens from the
What am I, a farmer?
Well, maybe you're a wolf. You're a wolf.
Why would I snatch chickens if I was a wolf?
Oh, you're hungry, right?
Yeah, they're not the same habitat.
It doesn't matter. It's chicken, right? Are you hungry?
I don't think the wolves are going to look for that specifically.
If they're hungry, they're looking for
What are the odds a wolf is going to be in the same habitat as a chicken?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Middle school science, everybody.
Well, hey, wait a second. You're telling me that a farm can't be built right next to a woods?
The odds of it is not likely.
Well, guess what? The odds are likely. Okay, it happens. It happens.
Okay, it happens. Yes, there might be 10 of them in the country.
What would you rather be? You don't want to be a wolf. What do you want to be?
Why would that? It doesn't matter what I would want to be.
Cheetah?
No, I'd rather be a wolf. I'd rather be a wolf.
All right. A laughing hyena? I think you'd look cool.
No, I would not want to be a hyena.
Why? You don't like laughing?
It's annoying.
You don't like to laugh?
Hyena laughs? They're annoying.
Well, you're annoying. I mean, I'm annoying.
I'm not going to encourage it more then.
I don't know. It just seems like a big part of your life. Matthew Stafford, 25 for 33, 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, he threw the touchdowns, not money yards. He didn't need it because, like you said, Kyron Williams, his return, 16 carries, 143 yards. Sensational game. Atwell had a pretty good game. 2-2. Atwell had a very good game. So they have some of these names, man. Puka and Tutu. I mean, what kind of names are these? I mean, are they Hawaiian?
Puka might be. Yeah, I think so.
So is Tutu. Do you wear a tutu?
No.
You don't wear a tutu? You know what a tutu is?
Yes, I'm not a ballet dancer.
Well, yeah, you kind of look like one. Kyler Murray, 27 for 45, 256 yards, 1 touchdown. He showed up to the game, but everybody else completely disappeared. I don't know what's going on. I mean, Marquez Brown, whatever they call him, Hollywood Brown. Hopefully he's not like his cousin, but nevertheless.
He's auditioned to be traded back to the Ravens.
6 receptions, 88 yards. He had a pretty good game, but nothing really that sells to me. I do believe Kyler Murray is the future quarterback of this Arizona Cardinal team. I think they stick with him. So that's it.
All right, the Denver Broncos, we were talking about it earlier, on a massive winning streak. 5th game in a row they win. To that 29-12 they win against the Browns.
A 1, a 2, a 3.
Yes.
Making fun of Russell Wilson.
Very balanced effort from the Broncos all around. It wasn't volume in any great capacity from anyone. Cortland Sutton had led the team with 61 yards. And it was a kind of a split running game. P. Ryan, who hadn't been really that great before that with the Broncos, getting it going, and Javonte Williams playing well. The Browns, just like Jeff was saying, really not a lot of offense, but also not a lot of turnovers either. They just need a little more out of their just overall passing
quarterback.
Yeah, it's just very hard for them.
Joey Flack in.
When Amari Cooper gets shut down, I think that's the main thing that the Browns have to adjust to, because we were talking about Surtain last week with Lance Sanderson. Like he was able to contain Cooper enough, and they just haven't found the other target.
Listen, Joey Flack came in Cleveland with 2 minutes left with the New York Jets, came back and beat them. Why can't the Cleveland Browns learn from the Jets? Bring the Flack in. He has a better chance of taking it to the playoffs. This Robinson kid stinks. Russell Wilson didn't have the best game, but hey, he did what he needed to do. 13 for 22, 134 yards, 1 touchdown. The defense showed up, and hey, listen, they could run the ball. I mean, everybody ran the ball. Javonte Williams, 18 carries, 65 yards. P. Ryan, 7 carries, 55 yards and a touchdown. Russell Wilson, 11 carries, 34 yards and a touchdown. Even Marvin Mims had one carry for 11 yards. So everything was working on the running game. Nothing really fully in the offensive game. And the Broncos defense really showed up in the game. So.
All right, the Kansas City Chiefs knocking off the Las Vegas Raiders 31-17. The Raiders had it going early. They were up 14-0, but then their offense went stale after that. Jacoby Myers had a nice game. Josh Jacobs had a nice game. Adams had a good first half, but really was shut down after that. Give credit to Trent McDuffie with the Chiefs. He's been one of the better young corners in this season for
a find
them.
by them, by the way.
First round pick. They traded up with the Patriots, and he's been very good. L'Jarius Sneed in the slot has been really good. And their slot offense, getting back into form. Jeff was talking about Rashee Rice earlier. Led the team with receiving, and Mahomes played very well in the second half of that game. And amidst all the drops, still was able to do very well.
Well, listen, there's nothing to say. Kansas City was the superb team, the top team. They just smashed the Raiders team that out of life, or just no breathing. Okay, they're not breathing anymore. Well, they are. Crosby is breathing. And Antonio Pierce has something to play for, but he's not going to be a coach of this team in the end. So congratulations to Kansas City on beating another crappy team.
Yep. Probably the best game of the week, the Bills and the Eagles, a thriller throughout.
A thriller in Manila.
Yes, except it was played in Philadelphia, not the Philippines, but
it's the Manila.
There you go.
It's not the thriller in Manila. It's Manila as a thriller.
Fair enough.
You want to do the thriller?
No.
Do you know how to do the dance at the thriller?
I do not.
Do you want me to teach you?
No.
I can see you doing it, especially.
You could teach Tommy. Maybe he'll have a better chance.
Tommy doesn't want to dance to Thriller. I mean, he's probably a better dancer than you.
That's not saying much.
Oh, that's true. But you know what? It's okay. You have, at least you have the guts to do it, and that's what I love about you.
That is true. But
you're like a Rockette. Okay.
No, I wouldn't be that talented either.
No, you have the high kicks. You could throw.
Okay, but they're also like professionals. I've done it for decades.
You don't need to be professional. All you got to do is throw kicks.
Congratulations. Some TikTok teenager could do that.
Oh, well, you're a TikTok. Look at him. You get so excited. I love it. Anyways, go ahead.
So I was going to say the Bills actually, I think, did a good job at shutting down A.J. Brown, having a good game plan for him. But I think the Eagles were able to counter enough with both the screen passes to the running backs and then finally getting Devontae Smith involved in more intermediate routes. I've been critical of their offensive coordinator in terms of only using him on shorter routes, and they finally have expanded his game a lot more. Jalen Hurts was not amazing, not terrible, but just somewhere in between. Josh Allen played very well.
Fantastic.
I think he was able to
That is
stretch the
best
field.
game of the year.
Yep, he was able to stretch the field a lot. The Eagles' slot corner vulnerabilities and safety vulnerabilities have been exposed a little bit. Gabe Davis, they're exposed to that, even because Khalil Shakir as well, another guy that they've been able to use.
I love Gabe Davis. I do. I if I was Buffalo, I'd find a way to sign him in the offseason, get rid of Stephon Diggs. He's cancer. I like Gabe Davis. He blocks. He does everything. He doesn't complain. He does what he needs to do. Love what he is. And by the way, Josh Allen had a sensational game.
Yes.
For anybody that throws this guy under the bus and that he's not a good quarterback, he's still an elite quarterback. I mean, 29 for 51, 339, two touchdowns and one interception. How about this? 9 carries for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
I mean, the guy does everything. I don't know why everybody hates this guy. Has he had a good season? No. Are the Buffalo Bills that good of a team? No. Are they going to fire the coach at the end of the season? Yes. Are they going to bring in a coach that will take this job and run with this team? 100%. Whoever gets this job is going to be set up very nicely. That's all I'm going to say.
I really hope it's Eric Bieniemy. He deserves a job like that.
Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
With Josh Allen, that wouldn't be fair. As a matter of fact, Speedy, I'm going to smack you in the head. That makes me upset. That pisses me off.
A guy that's been long overdue for a head coaching job. I'm not going to give him an elite quarterback.
You're giving the Buffalo Bills ideas that could hurt my team. I don't like this.
No, don't worry. It's not the Patriots.
Well, it's still the Buffalo Bills.
And the Jets can figure it out.
Well, thank you.
All right. Speaking of trying to
I'm
figure,
going to say that to the Giants now. I'm not giving them any tips.
I'm not saying the Giants are good.
No more tips.
I'm not saying the Giants are good.
No more tips for the Giants. I did them a favor. I gave them some ideas. Joe Shane's an idiot. He'll be fired at the end of next year.
Well, speaking of guys getting fired, Brandon Staley could be fired before the end of the year.
Please. I mean, that team is just...
The Chargers lose another...
What the hell would they think?
It's a 10-point game on paper, but it was
Billy
really a
Bell
close game.
will be there next year.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I told you that. I predicted it. Remember I said that.
Very interesting.
Belichick is belling on Hubert of Hubert.
Yes, the LA Chargers getting a lot of production from Keenan Allen. He continues to have a fantastic year. Probably, we were talking about Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown. He probably maybe is the third highest ranked receiver this year. 14 catches, 106 yards against the Ravens secondary. Granted, Marlon Humphrey wasn't playing 100%, but that's impressive numbers.
He doesn't look old, that's for sure.
No, he does not. He's in another one that on a 1-year deal, so he's going to get a payday somewhere. Whether the back with the Chargers, they probably need him with all the receiver injuries they've had.
He's a Pro Bowl player. He could be the way he's putting up numbers, he could be an All-Pro player.
Definitely has to be in consideration. But the problem is in this game, the Chargers.
Could you imagine that at his age?
The Chargers were not able to run the ball. Justin Herbert was actually the leading rusher in this game, 47 yards on that one.
What does that tell you?
Yeah, the Ravens were able to shut down. The Ravens were able to win in the trenches. And the Ravens' offense was not great, but they did what they need to do, spread the ball around. Zay Flowers had a touchdown, nice celebration. But Chargers defense playing well. Maybe Brandon Staley's trying to do some desperate things to save his job, but it's not going to work.
Nah, listen, Lamar Jack is just Jackson 5ing everybody. 18 for 32, 177 yards, 1 touchdown. Wasn't the best game, but hey, he ran the ball, 11 carries for 39 yards. I like a lot what I've seen with this offense. Zay Flowers has been moved into the rushing game. He's been used in the offensive throwing game. Odell Beckham is hopefully going to get rid of the Kardashian. The quicker he gets rid of the Kardashian, the quicker his numbers go up. I don't know what's going on offensively with this team, but defensively, this team is explosive. They need to find ways to put up points, especially in the playoffs, if they expect to win a Super Bowl. And they're one of the favorites to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
With that defense.
I think they're the most complete team in the NFL right now, if you look at
They're
that.
one of them.
Yeah.
They're one of them. But, yeah, nothing to say about that game.
Speaking of teams that are not complete.
Let's not talk about this game. This pisses me off.
All right.
I just lost $3,000 because of this team. Thank you
was-
to Minnesota, you pieces of garbage.
What, your knockout pool?
Yeah. I was the last four guys. Me and Jamie Lee Kurt are out.
Not Jamie Lee. Jamie Lee bites the dust finally.
Another one bites the dust with Jamie Lee. Maybe him and Butch could hang out with each other.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, the Vikings with an ugly showing against the Bears. The Bears defense, which is probably better in recent weeks, but still nothing special, especially against the run.
I'm done. I don't want to talk about this game. I think I'm sick.
Yeah, it's 50 yards for your leading receiver, 52 yards for your leading rusher. Not an ideal combination. Give Justin Fields some credit, though. He played well in that game.
Played well. What's well?
59 rushing yards, 217 passing yards, and a pretty efficient passing day.
Listen, it wasn't a great game.
I said he played well. I'm not saying he was played elite.
I mean, Dobbs looked like crap, too, by the way.
Yeah,
Four
that
interceptions.
is.
Thank
not
you,
ideal.
Dobbs, for screwing me up and hurting me. And a lot of money. A lot of money.
Lots of money. So you could add the Minnesota Vikings to your.
That would have been a good Christmas present for me. You know that?
Yeah. Well,
I was right
I don't
there.
think the Minnesota Vikings are trying to look at your Christmas
I was
list.
right there, ladies and gentlemen. I would have been a $3,000 richer if it wasn't for Mr. Dobbs, who, by the way, Jeff loved. And why did the Jets pick him up? That's why.
Well, Justin Jefferson doesn't care about your fantasy teams, and clearly the Minnesota Vikings don't care about your sports bets.
Oh, thank you, Justin. You screwed me. Why don't you send me a $3,000 check? Disgusting. All right, shut the music. I'm done. Oh man. Well, we didn't get our other guest, Kevin Green. What happened to him?
Yeah, he said he had to reschedule last second. All of a sudden, he said he might be able to come on later, but then he didn't respond to the message. So
That happens. But thank you, Kevin, for not showing up. I'm just kidding, Kevin. Thank you to Brandon, our friend Brandon Barnes. He was fantastic as always. He's now a high school coach, doing his thing. Hanging out. Playing Madden. Playing the drums, it could be the next Swiftie or Beyonce or whatever they call. Well, what do we call Beyonce? They're not Swiftie. We'll call him a Yancey. Yancey. All right. But anyways, thank you to Brandon Barge. Thank you to all the fans. Thank you to everybody for tuning in with us throughout the country, throughout the world, all over the country that have been downloading our show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We really appreciate you guys. Supporting what we do. We try to be different and we try to amuse you in every kind of way. Maybe one day Speedy will wear his underwear on his head again.
That will not happen unless I lose another bet.
That was pretty funny, by the way.
Yes, I know. Carl enjoyed it.
It was dirty underwear.
I know Carl enjoyed it, and that was a good introduction to our friend Pete Bursich. I got to witness that the first time he came on that show. And he's been on 3 other times since then.
We like Pete. Pete's a good guy. I'd love to hear what he has to say about his Minnesota Vikings, but he'll probably make even more jokes about my New York Jets. So thank you, Pete.
And Carl says Riley Leonard to the Vikings. Is that what you're implying, Carl?
Ooh, I love Riley.
That would be something.
I love Riley, and I'd love him to come to the Jets as the backup. I would love it. He'd be perfect here in New York. I really do. I think him sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for 2 years, I think the kid, I don't know if he's going to have the arm to be in the NFL. We have to see how that develops, but we've seen crazier things.
As long as you're coachable, like you don't need as much arm strength anymore, as long as you can just be coachable.
He can run.
Yeah. We were talking about like Dak earlier. Dak, that was his biggest flaw coming out of the draft was his arm strength, but he's accurate. He moves well and that makes every throw.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Same kind of thing. Like
he's got a good arm.
As long as you're coachable and you're accurate, you can survive as a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, where Riley goes. Maybe Minnesota, why not?
Yeah.
I think he's going to fall to the second round.
I do too. But
I think that's where Riley will go in the second round, but he's still, I think, efficient quarterback who should definitely be looked at, especially what he did with Duke this year. And look, the Duke coach gets another job.
Yeah, Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's a pretty big spot for him. So
a lot of money for transfer portals.
Hopefully no Fisher. And I know that's Jeff. But
do you want to end the show or just want to?
No, we're ending the show. We'll talk.
Sorry, Jeff. Call tomorrow.
We'll talk to you tomorrow, Jeff. I've got a headache, Jeff. I know what he's going to say. Riley Leonard sucks. He doesn't belong in the NFL. I know what he's going to say. I'm pretty much know where. I have like this this power where I can read things before they even happen. But anyways, again, we'll be back tomorrow. Let's parlay. Who do we have on?
Well, Wes will definitely be coming on for Let's Parlay. That's
what's the guest we have?
Don't know for sure. 9 o'clock, returning to our show is our Packers friend Ralph Mancini. Will be coming back on, and new guest at 9:30, Nick Pollock. He is the founder of Pitcherless, and he's also a fantasy baseball writer of the year as well. He works for the Washington Post and several other companies. Jeff, call back tomorrow. We're ending the show.
Jeffrey, please don't call. We're about to go. Hopefully not to your hole. Anyways, good night, everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really